Chapter 841. In the outer space of Planet Lighthouse, a giant dragon soared in the battlefield like a main ship. Its slender body was shrouded in colorful magic circles, blocking all the cannons and leaving behind a series of explosions. Milizaus flapped his wings, his huge body rampaging. The magic energy in his body boiled, and he wantonly cast endless offensive spells, setting off a magic wave on the battlefield. Beside Milizaus were two tiny figures. Light Beam Sagman was surging with golden light energy, constantly shattering Milizaus' protective spells. The other divine spell, Ninja, was casting spells to fight Milizaus. The two of them kept him busy. Due to his huge size, Milizaus' dodging ability was very poor, and he was practically a target. However, there were pros and cons. His tankiness could almost look down on all mages, so his energy was extremely dense, and the power of his spells was also increased. Although Sagman and Ninja could keep him busy, they were basically on par for the time being. The three beyond grade as fought fiercely on the battlefield, and the surrounding fleets were constantly destroyed by the shockwave. Two troublesome fellows. Milizaus' dragon eyes were filled with solemnity. Sagman was the strongest of the six, and with the other beyond grade A mage, it was very difficult to deal with them. Although he could fight the two of them at the same time, he could not free himself to help Black Star. The goal of these two fellows is to keep me busy, but I can also keep the other two busy. However, there are still 4 people on Black Star's side. Even if I go over to help, those two will follow, and it's just as dangerous. Sigh, there's no other way. I hope Black Star and Baoni can hold on. I can't help, Milizaus felt helpless. Even if he was extremely strong and was one of the 3 pillars of the dynasty, the two beyond grade as of the enemy were not to be underestimated. He had to focus on dealing with them and could not free himself. If he hadn't gotten involved in this mess in the beginning, he wouldn't have gotten involved in this crisis. The more Milizaus thought about it, the angrier he got, and the more he felt, the angrier he got. He raised his head and let out a mouthful of destructive dark golden dragon breath, which clashed with Sagman's light energy shockwave and exploded into dazzling fireworks. Heh, our 4 companions are fighting against 2 of you. Black Star won't be able to hold on for long. The battle over there will be over soon. Your resistance now is meaningless. Why don't you give up and join the Arcane Church? This is your only way out. You're not a direct descendant of the Empire, so there's no need to die for them. At this moment, Ninja used a spell to send a voice transmission to Milizaus. His cold words sounded in Milizaus' mind. What answered him was an even more powerful dragon breath. Humph, you really won't compromise. Ninja's eyes turned cold as he casually released a huge magic shield to block the dragon's breath. Sagman said calmly, "Then let's act according to the plan. He thinks that we are only going to stall him and create an opportunity to use the 10,000 deity scepter." Okay. At this moment, Milizaus did not know that not only Black Star, but he was also one of the Arcane Church's targets. In the thin air of Planet Lighthouse, Han Shao and Baoni also started fighting with Cisco's group of 4. The moment the battle began, Han Shao activated Reynolds' character summon card without hesitation. The mechanical force in his body seemed to have taken an aphrodisiac and swelled up. Perfect mechanical sense. This character summon card could only be used 3 times. He had already used it twice before, so this would be the last time. The 1.4 times increase in machinery affinity instantly raised the standard of his mechanical force to a whole new level. The densely packed mech legion around them immediately opened fire, and their attack power soared under the effect of mechanical force. The energy cannons formed a barrage that locked down the sky. The 4 of them instantly moved. A blue light flashed in Dylan's eyes, and a huge amount of seawater gushed out from his body, forming water dragons that grew larger and larger. They circled around the 4 of them and formed a barrier. Under his control, the water curtain became extremely compressed, and it seemed to have become a solid shield. Cisco did not stay idle either. He covered the water curtain with his psychic energy and formed multiple shields. Boom! Boom! Wave after wave of attacks landed on the water curtain and the psychic shield. The shields kept shattering, but they were constantly replenished by Psyker and Dylan, blocking most of the attacks. Working together, it was equivalent to the mechanical army needing to break through the defenses of two beyond grade as. The four of them would not just stand there and wait to be attacked. They all moved at high speed. Desolate Beast Mercer was a grayish-black humanoid more than 7 meters tall. He looked like an upright beast with a thick mane growing from the top of his head to the bottom of his tail. His muscles were bulging, and he wore a simple special armor. He was wrapped in a powerful green pugilist flame and charged toward them like a meteor. Han Shao had already activated his mechanical suit and covered his entire body. He had fought with Heber before, so he was very experienced in dealing with this. He constantly changed his position and controlled his mechanical army to intercept Mercer while maintaining a distance from him. Facing 4 strong enemies, Baoni did not dare slack off. He constantly activated his Esper ability, and his main target was Dylan. He ignited a large amount of seawater and turned it into a sea of flames. The water curtain turned into clouds of white steam when it clashed with the sea of flames. At this time, both Han Shao and Baoni felt a strange fluctuation in space. They both looked up and saw Sector Gate Taylor holding his staff. His lips were moving as if he was chanting a spell. A huge magic formation appeared in the sky behind him, and the glowing patterns were as complicated as vines. Boom! The sound of the door of a palace being pushed open sounded in their ears. The next moment, the magic formation behind Taylor split open from the middle and turned into a huge circular door of light. Inside the door of light was a pitch-black world. In the darkness, there were countless red light spots that looked like fireflies. They looked like the eyes of some kind of creature. This is a summoning circle. Han Zhao's eyes narrowed. Rua! In the next second, countless strange bright red creatures roared as they surged out of the door of light. They were like a blood-red flood, and the scene was like a floodwater. These creatures looked like mutated giant bat. They had sharp claws and bone spikes, horns on their heads, and 2 pairs of blood-red eyes on their faces that could shoot red lasers. Their appearance seemed to be related to demons. After these summoned creatures appeared, they immediately found the mechanical army, and the 2 sides started fighting in midair. Flesh and blood collided with machinery. Blood and engine oil flowed out. Pieces of flesh and broken parts fell like rain. Taylor was a mage, and he was best at summoning spells. This was where his nickname Sector Gate came from. Summoning mages are at a disadvantage for me. Han Shao clenched his teeth. Army-style mechanics and summoning mages were known as the 2 biggest hooligans, and they both used human wave tactic. The difference between the 2 was that mechanics burned money and could build machines in advance, while summoning mages could only slowly summon their minions in battle, burning mana. Now that Han Zhao's mechanical army had reached the scale of 10 million, it would take a very long time for Taylor to summon minions of the same scale. At this time, the first batch of summoned creatures could not cause much damage to the mechanical army. However, if Taylor was not stopped from continuing to cast spells, more and more of his summoned creatures would be able to fight against the mech army sooner or later, greatly reducing the advantage of Han Zhao's human wave tactic. If it was a one-on-one battle, Han Shao had more than 10 ways to interrupt the other party's summoning. However, this was a group battle, and it was 2 against 4. He was pinned down by the enemy, and the difficulty of stopping Taylor from casting spells had increased exponentially. The pugilist's sudden attack gives me pressure, and the psychic and control Esper are attacking while controlling the field, so the summoner has no pressure. What a good combo! Han Xiaoxin had a heavy headache. The enemy had clearly come prepared. Baoni also understood this point. The flames in his eyes burned brightly, and he also targeted his summoned creatures with his Esper ability. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. His Yoi ability was also outstanding, and his summoned creatures were ignited without any resistance, turning into falling meteors. "I'll deal with him," Dylan said. He controlled the seawater to surge toward Baoni, and water tentacles reached out from the surging ocean to push away the mechanical army that was blocking his way. He stepped on the waves, bounced his legs, and shot towards Baoni like a cannonball, creating a whirlwind of fine splashes in the air. The flames on Baoni's body burned brightly, and his blood that once belonged to the pyro demon race boiled. He opened his mouth and spat out red flames, instantly evaporating a large amount of seawater and clashing with the seawater that Dylan spat out in midair. Fire and water, red and blue, neither side was willing to be outdone. Under the support of the powerful energy of both sides, they reached a stalemate and released a large amount of water vapor. White mist quickly spread out and vision was obstructed. However, this did not affect the Beyond Grade as Han Xiao did not have the time to care about anything else. The enemy only had one person to pin down Baoni, while Cisco, Mercer, and Taylor surrounded him. Facing the pressure of 3 Beyond Grade as at the same time, the damage to his mechanical army continued to rise. Fortunately, he had the bonus of perfect mechanical sense, or he would have suffered even faster losses. Han Xiao himself was in a very sorry state, constantly dodging the attacks of psychic, magic, and pugilist energy waves. He did not even have time to catch his breath. With his current strength, facing 3 Beyond Grade as at the same time was beyond his ability. Beyond Grade as were all experts with rich combat experience, and their teamwork was very good. The combat strength they could unleash was not as simple as just adding together. 90% of the time, he was dodging and defending, very passive. While Cisco and the other two chased after Han Xiao, they also wantonly attacked the mechanical army. They had read the information and knew that Han Xiao had the title of Undying Black Star. Although they believed that Black Star would lose the title of Undying if they worked together, only by getting rid of the mechanical army would they have a safe environment to attack. After all, the Mech Legion was indeed very threatening. With the bonus of perfect mechanical sense and the true damage of legendary battle technique. If they were careless, they could be heavily injured by Black Star at any time. Therefore, Cisco and the other two focused on taking care of Han Xiao's mechanical army. The mechanical soldiers were destroyed by the attacks of the Beyond Grade as one after another, but they were pulled back by Han Xiao's waste modification. It was like a tug of war. If this continues, it'll be bad, Han Xiao complained while dodging the attacks. Although he could repair the Mech Legion, there was a limit to the number of times he could repair it. There were 4 Beyond Grade as on the other side. His mechanical army would definitely not be able to outlast them. If all his mechanical army was destroyed, he would become a toothless tiger. No matter how tanky he would not be able to fight back. Planet Lighthouse and the Arcane Church's fleet started an all-out war. The sky and the ground were both filled with battlefield. Milizau's armed dragon guards had already joined the battle. The heavily armored giant dragons fought with the battleships, tearing apart each other's armor and dragon scales. Hela, Hardaway, Fu Ding, and the rest of the Black Star Corps Black Star Guards also joined the battle outside the atmosphere, helping the Dynasty's fleet fight against the Arcane Church's battleship. The Calamity Grade officers shuttled through the battleship formation one after another, using their abilities to destroy the enemy's battleship. Although they wanted to help Han Xiao, they knew their limits. The battle between 6 Beyond Grade as was not something they could interfere with. They would only be cannon fodder if they went. The only thing they could do was fight alongside the Dynasty's fleet. The Black Star Guards were all elite Calamity Grades, so they could shine on the battlefield. Other than sending out Beyond Grade as the Arcane Church also sent out a group of Calamity Grades. However, their numbers were not as great as the Dynasty's. The calamity grades of both sides quickly found each other and started fighting. Hadavi endured a sea of attacks and slashed at the calamity grade supers that he caught. Fu Ding controlled his psychic power and moved gracefully between the crisscrossing energy beams. His psychic power accurately hit his target time and time again. Hela was even more powerful. In such a huge battlefield, she was constantly provided with souls, increasing her strength rapidly. Without holding back at all, the dark red death energy gushed out like a tsunami. It was completely overwhelming, and it did not take long for Hela to kill her opponent and absorb his soul. She took the opportunity to look at the battlefield in the sky above Planet Lighthouse. The 6 of them, including Han Xiao, were fighting there. The shock waves they released were too terrifying, and it had already become a forbidden zone. Don't die. Hela bit her lips and decisively turned around to look for the next enemy. The battlefield in the sky was constantly moving, and the summoned creatures grew larger and larger. On the contrary, the number of mechanical soldiers was decreasing. The 2 of them became more and more passive. Han Xiao also received quite a number of attacks, but his recovery ability was strong, so he was not affected much. However, Baoni was different. He did not have a very strong physique, and he had almost no means of defending against Cisco's psychic attack. He could only barely hold on, and the situation was getting worse and worse. This guy can't hold on much longer. Looking at Baoni, who was covered in wounds, Han Xiao's heart sank. This teammate was his only support at the moment. If he was killed, he would have to face 4 beyond grade as alone. By then, he might not even have the chance to deal with them. At this time, Cisco's group of 4 exchanged glances and suddenly launched an even more intense attack on Han Xiao. Xiao, a white jade beast statue that was a few hundred meters tall, spat out a gray beam of light toward Han Xiao. It was an elite summoned creature under Taylor's command. Han Xiao hurriedly turned around and dodged. The fact that he had the Void bloodline had long been recorded in his information. His Void hyperdrive was targeted by the enemy. As a beyond grade A mage, Taylor was naturally proficient in controlling multidimensional energy. This was the basic skill of a summoner to communicate with their summoned creatures. As long as Han Xiao entered the Void hyperdrive, he would be forced out by the enemy's spells. He would not be able to maintain the Void hyperdrive state for long, so he would not be able to escape. In fact, when the Arcane Church fleet appeared, the Void hyperdrive could no longer help Han Xiao escape. Even if he abandoned everyone and escaped by himself, the hyperdrive speed of the Arcane Church spaceship would not be slower than him. They would catch up to him very quickly and he would be alone. After dodging the beam, the psychic power and water dragon swept toward him. Han Xiao opened his psionic shield and dodged while defending. At this time, a figure appeared in front of him as if teleporting. It was Mercer, and his fists smashed down. Is this the teleportation technique Heber used before? Han Xiao was shocked and hurriedly made a defensive stance. However, the next moment, the fist that landed was like an illusion, passing through Han Xiao's body. It did not feel real at all, proving that the person in front of him was an illusion. *T. Han Xiao immediately reacted. His expression changed, and he hurriedly looked toward Baoni's direction. As expected, Taylor used a spell, and the real Mercer turned around and approached Baoni while using his aura concealment spell. Under Baoni's panicked expression, shadows of his fists filled the sky. Dong dong dong. Baoni was hit repeatedly, and his injuries quickly worsened. The other 3 immediately changed their target and attacked Baoni at the same time as if they had planned this beforehand. If he was hit by the combined attacks of 4 beyond grade as, with Baoni's current injuries, he would most likely enter a state of near death. Whoosh! At this critical moment, Han Xiao could not care less. He used his restricted Void hyperdrive and appeared right in front of Baoni in a hurry. This distance was still doable. Then, Han Xiao directly pushed Baoni behind him, and faced the combined attacks of the four beyond grade as. Boom! His mechanical suit shattered, and a large chunk of his health instantly disappeared. Han Xiao's vision blurred, and his entire body was in intense pain. He was sent flying like a baseball, spinning in the air. The mechanical army hurriedly blocked the pursuit of Cisco's group of four without caring about the casualties. Only then did he have time to stabilize his body. Enduring the intense pain from his wounds, he looked at his plummeting health. This damage is too terrifying. If I hadn't stopped it in time, Baoni would have died, Han Xiaoxin bitterly smiled. This time, he had really become a meat shield for Baoni. Baoni hurriedly retreated to Han Zhao's side, supported his body, and said with a hoarse voice, "Are you okay?" "I'm okay. I won't die so easily. Don't forget what my nickname is." Han Xiao shook off his hand, took a deep breath, and activated his cell regeneration ability, allowing his terrifying injuries to gradually recover. "Thank you. If not for you, I would have died." Baoni's tone was filled with gratitude, but it then became sorrowful. "No, we're still going to die. It's just a matter of time." "Aren't you talking nonsense? Anyone will die." Han Xiao could not help but glance at him. Baoni choked and had a helpless expression. "You're still in the mood to joke at a time like this?" However, Han Xiao then shook his head and said with a firm tone, "However, today is not the day of our death." Just as the four beyond grade as, including Cisco, were planning to follow up with another attack, Taylor suddenly paused and said with uncertainty, Wait. I sense a strange magical fluctuation approaching through the secondary dimension. So powerful." At this time, the space not far away suddenly twisted, and an expanding teleportation gate appeared. At this time, the Dynasty's anti-wormhole device had already been shut down. Taylor wanted to use space magic to counter this teleportation gate that suddenly appeared, but he realized that the magic wave of this teleportation gate was far stronger than any mage he had ever seen. Taylor was shocked. With his ability, he was unable to stop the teleportation gate from forming. The next moment, an enormous castle wrapped in dense magic light jumped out of the teleportation gate. "Why is he here?" Cisco's eyes widened. As a beyond grade A in the Shattered Star Ring, he was all too familiar with this thing. It was the Palace of Hidden Spells. Austin floated at the top of the castle of the Palace of Hidden Spells. Behind him were countless red-robed forbidden sorcerers, all looking at them. He adjusted his loose robe, and an inexplicable smile appeared on his face. I'm not late, am I?" "It's a little late today, and this chapter has quite a lot of words, so it took me a while to write." Chapter 842. The four of them stared at the Palace of Hidden Spells not far away in shock. Austin's arrival shocked them. Cisco was even more shocked. Hasn't this old man always been neutral? Why is he here? Looks like he's here to help Black Star? Austin, you've joined the Red Empire? Cisco was shocked and sent a telepathic message. Nope. Austin smiled. Then why are you here? This has nothing to do with you. Maintain your neutrality and don't come looking for trouble. Cisco's tone was heavy. Sorry, I have an agreement with Black Star. This has nothing to do with the Red Empire. This is a personal request. Austin chuckled. Back at the Tyrant's party, in order to borrow the evolution cube, he had agreed to many of Han Zhao's conditions. One of the conditions was to help Han Xiao do something as long as it was within his capabilities and did not go against his principles. This was the reason why he was here. When he realized that the Arcane Church was up to something, for safety's sake, Han Xiao had already secretly asked Austin for external help. In order to fulfill his promise, Austin steered the Palace of Hidden Spells and secretly came to the flickering world through continuous long-distance teleportation, hiding in the desolate universe belt. He did not use the Red Empire Stargate and claimed that he was going to look for magic materials in other secondary dimensions. Because it was too common for beyond grade A mages to look for materials in secondary dimensions, and because he was a neutral faction, the outside world directly ignored the movements of the Palace of Hidden Spells, including the Arcane Church. No one would have thought that a neutral mage like Austin would personally sneak into the flickering world without the dynasty's permission. As a gold item, a universal treasure, the cost of building the Palace of Hidden Spells was astronomical. It only took him 10 days to sneak from the shattered star ring to the desolate universe belt of the flickering world, which was many times faster than the high-velocity spaceships of the stowaways. He found a place to wait for orders and activated the concealment formation of the Palace of Hidden Spells to hide himself. Normal observation equipment would not be able to detect the concealment ability of a universal treasure-level mage tower so easily. Of course, Austin did not know that there were so many enemies in the beginning. He originally thought that the Arcane Church would not actually make a move, and that he only needed to stay here for a while to easily complete the agreement. Even if he was discovered by the Empire, with Black Star as his guarantor, the Empire would not do anything to him. But he didn't expect the Arcane Church to make such a big scene. After hesitating for a while, he finally decided not to just stand by and watch. He secretly pinched his nose and accepted his bad luck. Then, he led the Palace of Hidden Spells to provide support. As a neutral party, he knew that this was not in line with the principle of seeking benefits and avoiding harm, but since he had already agreed to Black Star's request, Austin did not go back on his word. He still had this bit of credibility. Austin looked calm and collected, but in reality, no one knew that although he was smiling on the surface, he was cursing in his heart. "This is a huge loss." Han Shao heaved a sigh of relief, and a smile appeared on his face. "Old man, you're finally here. With you here, we can share some of the pressure." Austin glanced at him and snorted. "I must be crazy to participate in this chaotic battle. Using your evolution cube is a huge loss for me." As soon as he said that, Bayoni immediately felt that he had met a confidant. The way he saw it, Milizaus, who was fighting outside the atmosphere, probably also felt the same way. He could not help but turn around to look at Han Shao, who was gradually recovering. Bayoni, who was covered in wounds, had a bitter look in his eyes. "My heart is bitter, but I won't say it." Han Shao noticed his gaze and his mouth twitched. He bent his fingers, and a sharp needle popped out from his fingertips, indicating for Bayoni to lower his defenses and let him inject him. "What are you doing?" "Healing you." "Sigh, the vitality of a beyond grade A is huge. What can your little healing agent do?" "What did you inject me with?" Before he finished speaking, Han Shao injected Bayoni with the life potion made by Aurora. Bayoni originally had a bitter look on his face, not thinking that the treatment would be useful. However, after the injection, his expression changed, and he was filled with shock. He could feel a surge of life energy being injected into his body, and all the cells in his body were cheering. It was as though he had eaten a huge tonic, and his recovery speed increased by many times. Although he did not recover to his peak state, he was no longer heavily injured. "What kind of potion is this? It's so effective on a beyond grade A." Bayoni was shocked. "You still have the time to be curious? Deal with the situation in front of you first." Han Shao put away the needle. Although Cisco's group of 4 had stopped attacking, the surrounding mechanical army was still fighting with the summoned creatures. As long as the mechanical army was fighting, it meant that Han Shao was in combat. Furthermore, the time limit for him to leave combat was 5 minutes, which was far from enough. Although the enemies were shocked, they would not be stunned for so long. Seeing that Austin was determined to interfere, they put away their shock and accepted reality. They immediately resumed their attacks and targeted Austin as their target. Austin activated the Palace of Hidden Spells with all his might, activating all the formations and absorbing the wandering dark energy. With a hum, the massive palace shone with a dazzling magical radiance. The Palace of Hidden Spells activated one after another, spewing out beams of mana impact and engaging the group in a fierce battle. On the other side, Mercer was very close to Han Xiao and Baoni to begin with. In a flash, he appeared in front of Han Xiao and punched at Han Xiao's head. At such a close distance, he had just used Void Hyperdrive, and there was still Baoni behind him. Han Xiao decisively activated Heber's character summon card, and his strength increased by 4,000 points. A surge of energy exploded within his body, pouring into his fist. Suddenly, he punched out, producing an explosive sound as he brazenly clashed head-on with his opponent. Bang! The two fists, one large and one small, collided, creating a shockwave in the air. The surrounding water vapor was blown away, forming a clear area. Mercer felt a rebounding force that was no weaker than his own coming from his fist, and his body flew out uncontrollably. He hurriedly stabilized himself and realized that Han Xiao was also sent flying. Both of them were sent flying by each other. Their strength was actually on par. "How do you have so much strength?" Mercer's beastly face was filled with shock. His strongest attribute was strength, but a mechanic's punch was actually on par with a pugilist's? What the hell? Are you even worthy of being a mechanic? Shaking his arm, Han Xiao bared his teeth. The Heber's character summon card allowed him to not be crushed by the opponent's strength, but the pugilist flames had a powerful close-range destructive power, which tore apart many of the cells in his arm. With the help of the rebounding force, Han Xiao quickly retreated with Baoni and hid in the defense line of the mechanical army. At the same time, he quickly analyzed the situation. Milizau's is holding back 2 people, and the situation on my side is now 3 against 4. Although the enemy still has 1 more person, Austin has the buff from the Palace of Hidden Spells, so he can share more of the pressure. I'm no longer at an absolute disadvantage, and can barely hold on. But the enemy still has powerful reinforcements. If Escod arrives, the balance will be broken again. Austin's Palace of Hidden Spells can teleport me away, and it seems like 1 mage won't be able to stop it. However, there are 2 mages on the other side, and they definitely have a way to counter the teleportation of the Palace of Hidden Spells. If we want to run, we can only let the Palace of Hidden Spells take Baoni and me away. If we force Milizau's onto the Palace of Hidden Spells, the 2 mages will meet up, and we won't be able to escape. Oh, there's another problem. The teleportation of the Palace of Hidden Spells needs time to be channeled, and that mage won't just watch me, the key target, escape. He'll definitely abandon Milizau's and come to stop us. Milizau's will definitely not stay behind to die after seeing us abandon him. He definitely won't sacrifice himself to hold back Ninja. If we're heartless, he'll be heartless too. When Ninja turns around to deal with us, Milizau's will most likely use teleportation to escape. At that time, the Palace of Hidden Spells will still be left behind, but we'll lose our strongest combatant, Milizau's. Han Zhao's expression was grave. Thinking about it this way, using the Palace of Hidden Spells to escape would only mean abandoning Milizau's. Furthermore, the success rate was extremely low. If they failed and hurt Milizau's feelings, he would most likely take the opportunity to escape. Then, they would have 1 less combatant on their side, making the situation even worse. If they really escaped, the dynasty's fleet would definitely be wiped out. Be it the armed dragon guards, his Black Star guards, or even Hela, Aurora, and Fu Ding, none of them would be able to survive. It would be difficult for the Palace of Hidden Spells to teleport reinforcements. Even the multidimensional sky opening transportation device had a limit to the teleportation distance, and the Palace of Hidden Spells was no exception. Heber's 3 reinforcements were located in different regions of different star clusters and were currently rushing to the entrance of Planet Lighthouse through the Stargate network. They had exceeded the teleportation range of the Palace of Hidden Spells, and no matter how fast they would not be faster than the Stargate. Han Shao clenched his teeth and said, "Terekov is right. We don't have much of a choice. We can only hold on until the reinforcements arrive at the other end of the Stargate. The stronger they were, the greater their chances. Their promotion mission was only one step away from completion, so they had to find an opportunity to do so. Waiting for the enemy to stop was obviously not realistic. Perhaps they could try another method." After Austin joined the team, the battle resumed, and the intensity was raised to a whole new level. No one below Beyond Grade A could interfere. The Palace of Hidden Spells was Austin's combat equipment, and it had extremely high bonuses to his magic. It was like a magic cannon that fired non-stop, displaying extraordinary combat strength. Although it was 3 against 4, the originally one-sided situation was instantly broken, and no one could do anything to the other in the short term. Han Zhao's pressure was shared, and correspondingly, the threat that the mechanical army gave Sisko's group of 4 increased. The enemy had no choice but to be more cautious and slow down their attack. Taylor could no longer summon creatures without any pressure, and his summoning was interrupted time and time again. The 4 of them purposely separated the Palace of Hidden Spells from Han Shao and Han Shao, discussing their strategy as they fought. With the help of the Palace of Hidden Spells, Austin's combat strength has been raised to a whole new level. "He's very difficult to deal with," Sisko said solemnly. "Tisk, if I had brought my mage tower, I might not have been afraid of him." Taylor was a little annoyed that his summoning was interrupted again. Basically, every Beyond Grade A mage had a mage tower, but not everyone could create a universal treasure like the Palace of Hidden Spells. Taylor and Ninja did not bring their own mage towers for this trip. Firstly, it was much more cumbersome. After they were teleported over by the Radiant Federation, they had to leave on their own. In a situation where they would definitely be chased by the Dynasty fleet, bringing a cumbersome mage tower would affect their mobility. Secondly, they felt that there would not be any accidents, so there was no need to bring it. Thirdly, it was to maintain the secrecy of this operation and reduce the chances of being discovered in advance. After all, they were not neutral parties like Austin. "Be careful. Black Star might escape with the help of the Palace of Hidden Spells," Dylan reminded. "If he has such intentions, I will immediately inform Ninja to come down and meet up with him. Although I can't stop the teleportation of the Palace of Hidden Spells alone, the 2 of us should be able to interrupt it," Taylor said. "Then, Milizaus might take the opportunity to escape. Then, let Sagman and Ninja use the 10,000 deity scepter quickly, or force Milizaus to come over. If we really have to choose between the 2, we can ignore Milizaus. Black Star is our main target." Sisko interjected. Mercer did not participate in the group chat the entire time and focused on chasing after Han Shao. He did not believe that he would lose and wanted to test the strength of Han Zhao's fist. When the Palace of Hidden Spells appeared, the 3 people fighting outside the atmosphere also noticed this phenomenon. With Han Zhao's reinforcements appearing, Milizaus was overjoyed and spat out even more dragon breaths. On the other hand, Sagman and Ninja both became serious. Sisko said that the one who came is Austin from the Shattered Star Ring. "He's here to help Black Star. With another Beyond Grade A on the enemy's side, our advantage will be reduced." Sagman frowned and casually destroyed a dragon breath. 4 against 6. "It seems like we might not be able to end the battle before Esgod arrives." Ninja shook his head. The Arcane Church's instructions were to complete the mission as soon as possible and not let Esgod join in. However, it seemed that it would not be so easy. Han Zhao's backup plan was beyond their expectations. "Don't be so hasty to come to a conclusion." Sagman abruptly released a surging light screen that resembled a raging tide. The tsunami-like light energy shattered the dragon breath that Milizaus spat out, and the dazzling light filled the pitch-black space battlefield. In the surrounding battleships, countless crew members squinted their eyes at the sight of this dazzling sea of light, and their vision was filled with white. Milizaus' vision and senses were affected to a certain extent, and he suddenly felt a strong sense of danger. This came from the intuition of a beyond grade A. Without any hesitation, he cast defensive spells again and again. Colorful magic shields and barriers covered his body layer by layer, like a turtle's shell. Milizaus then flapped his dragon wings and left the range of the light energy wave. He hurriedly looked over and saw that a strange black rod had appeared in front of Ninja. With Milizaus' amazing vision, he could clearly see that this black rod was only slightly more than a meter long. There were thousands of tiny engravings on it. This is the 10,000 deity scepter? Alarm bells rang in Milizaus' mind. With his vast knowledge, there was no way he would not recognize this famous universal treasure of the Arcane Church. The Arcane Church was an expert in the study of souls, beliefs, spirits, and illusions. They had an incredible unique technology, which was to turn fake gods into real existences, creating gods artificially and allowing them to exist in a different form. The 10,000 deity scepter was a universal treasure that the Arcane Church had created coincidentally based on this technology. It could not be replicated and was one of the mediums to borrow the power of these artificial gods. To put it simply, the gods of the Arcane Church were like missiles and ammunition, and the 10,000 deity scepter was a special launching tool. If the Radiant Federation's multidimensional sky-opening transportation device was a strategic universal treasure, then the 10,000 deity scepter was a single-target killing weapon. Its power was not shocking, but to creatures with souls, the 10,000 deity scepter was incredibly lethal. Furthermore, the stronger the user, the more lethal the weapon would be. During the Exploration-era war, 3 powerful primordial ones had even died under this weapon. The 10,000 deity scepter required gods to be used as ammunition, and the user would suffer a certain amount of backlash. The same person could not use it repeatedly within a short period of time. Every time it was used, the 10,000 deity scepter would be damaged to varying degrees, making it extremely difficult to repair. Because of these 3 reasons, the Arcane Church rarely used this universal treasure. Most of the time, it was used as a strategic deterrent. Milizaus never thought that he would be able to see this infamous weapon with his own eyes while he was still alive. What kind of King bad luck is this? Did Black Star, you jinx, infect me with your bad luck? Did I eat the rice of the Arcane Church? Do you have to be so cruel? Just as he was about to explode, Ninja flicked his finger, and the 10,000 deity scepter in front of him moved horizontally. The tip of the scepter was aimed at Milizaus, and it was activated. Ninja channeled a large amount of energy into the black scepter, and all the carvings on it lit up. Countless tiny carvings of gods seemed to come alive, projecting tens of thousands of translucent phantoms. They merged into an illusionary energy pillar and shot toward Milizaus. If it were anyone else, they might be able to dodge this attack, but Milizaus' enormous body could not do so. He could only cast all kinds of high-level defensive spells like crazy. However, in front of the energy pillar shot out by the 10,000 deity scepter, these magic shields that could block the psionic cannons were instantly penetrated as if they did not exist. Milizaus could only watch as the energy pillar pierced through countless magic shields without any resistance, pierced through the thick dragon scales on his chest, and entered his body without a trace of smoke. Black Star F***CKU. Before he could finish cursing, the giant dragon's body shook violently in the next second. He instantly lost control of his body like a bird shot down by an arrow. The giant dragon's body was captured by the gravitational force of Planet Lighthouse. It spun and fell toward the planet like a meteorite falling from the sky. Crack! At the same time, A few deep cracks appeared on the surface of the 10,000 deity scepter. A ninja groaned as he was hit by the backlash. Sagman shot out a tentacle of light and grabbed the 10,000 deity scepter. He knew that this attack was not enough to kill Milizaus, who was extremely tanky. Ninja could no longer use this weapon, so it was his turn to use it. Chapter 843. A few minutes earlier, in the high-altitude battlefield of Planet Lighthouse, the 7 beyond grade as were embroiled in a chaotic battle. Fire and water collided, psychic energy and magic entangled, machinery and flesh clashed, and psionic energy beams intersected, leaving behind countless burning and twisted energy trails in the air. It was 3 against 4, and the enemy's attacks had no choice but to slow down. The pressure on Han Xiao was greatly reduced, and with his powerful recovery speed, he gradually stabilized his footing and started to deal with the enemy. Han Zhao's mechanical army, Austin's palace of hidden spells, Taylor's summoned creatures, Cisco's psychic energy, Dylan's water control, Bayone's ignite. The battlefield was filled with Yui damage everywhere. Among them, the strongest Yui damage was the Mech Legion, with over 10 million of them. The psionic cannons covered almost every inch of the sky, and perfect mechanical sense greatly increased the combat strength of the army. Coupled with the true damage from legendary battle technique, Cisco's group of 4 did not dare lower their guard and maintained their defenses at all times. Even the beyond grade as would not be able to escape unscathed in such an environment, and the mechanical army and summoned creatures that used the human wave tactic suffered even more damage. The mechanical army could be repaired, and the summoned creatures were endless. Both sides had their advantages. If it was a one-on-one battle, Han Xiao would have an 80% chance of beating Taylor without perfect mechanical sense. Now that he had activated perfect mechanical sense, it was even more likely that he would win. However, Taylor had teammates that restrained Han Zhao's Mech Legion, making it easier for him to cast spells and summon endless helpers. Currently, there were all sorts of summoned creatures on the battlefield. There were demonic bats, azurite statues, plasma hydralisks, spirit hunters, spirit hermits, and so on. There were all sorts of strange combat styles, and all of them were monsters that had signed contracts with Taylor to nurture. A powerful summoner would definitely have a variety of summoned creatures. Han Xiao split out 2 to 3 million mechanical soldiers under the command of the combat artificial intelligence to fight these summoned creatures. The scene of the mechanical army fighting the beast tide was like 2 armies fighting. The mechanical army cooperated well with each other, and their tactics were precise. They continuously shot down batch after batch of summoned creatures, and their losses were much lower than the summoned creature army. In the chaotic battlefield, a team of mechanical lifeforms led by Psionic Prime was moving at high speed amidst the crisscrossing cannon fire. The combat artificial intelligence Sparta did not take over the mechanical lifeforms' bodies and only gave them tactical orders. The specific actions allowed the mechanical lifeforms to display their subjective initiative. This way, the mechanical lifeforms could unleash 100% of their combat strength. The powerful data processing and battlefield analysis modules were running at high power, showing the gaps between the rain of bullets and planning the dodging route. Psionic Prime's flying posture was agile, and the entire team followed behind him to avoid the energy beams. If they could not avoid them, they would use psionic shields to block them in advance. The speed of the team was very fast. The direction in which this combat team was heading was precisely the battlefield where the elite summoned creatures were. The target was a team of very strong commander-grade demon batmen. They were guarding a blue-gold statue that was hundreds of meters tall and continuously shooting laser beams. All of them were buffed by the summoner's status halo, and their attributes were greatly increased. They had already killed many normal mechanical soldiers and floating turret. Everyone pay attention. Our mission is to eliminate the enemy's elite unit. In the communication network of the mechanical life, Psionic Prime's emotionless mechanical voice sounded. This team of demon Batmen noticed the rapidly approaching mechanical life team and immediately turned around to face them. The distance is shrinking. Prepare for battle. Target locked. Fire. The mechanical lifeforms that belonged to the long-range attack team turned back to their original bodies. There were dark energy turrets, psionic cluster jets, firepower fortresses, and high-energy short-range missile launchers. They fired a series of long-range attacks toward the target. Bang, bang, bang. These commander-grade demon Batmen all activated their red magic shields and charged forward while enduring the attack. From time to time, someone's shield would be broken and penetrated by the long-range attacks of the mechanical life team. There were many casualties. Facing the attack, the enormous blue-gold statue immediately turned around. White energy gathered in its eyes, and the next moment, thick concentrated magic energy beams shot out. The cannon fodder mechanical soldiers and summoned creatures in its way were all blown apart. The remaining magic energy beams shot toward Psionic Prime's mechanical life team. Giant King Kong attacked. Behind Psionic Prime, an enormous shadow loomed over. Countless mechanical components combined and turned into a 100-meter-tall mechanical life named Giant King Kong. He raised an enormous psionic shield to protect all his team members and forcefully blocked the magic energy beams. Bang! The light expanded and caused a rumbling explosion. He only suffered some damage to his outer armor. The thrusters on the back of the giant titan were pushed to the maximum power output. Its huge body leaped into the air and knocked away the summoned creatures that came to stop it. It crossed a large distance on the battlefield and landed on the azurite statue. The two giant beasts collided with each other. Boom! It was as if the earth was shaking. The blue-gold statue was pinned down by Giant King Kong and given a good beating. Blue fragments fell like rain. While the two enormous creatures were fighting, the small teams below were also engaged in an intense battle. These mechanical lifeforms were basically all elite units that had grown for a period of time. Among them, there was no lack of individuals that were mini-bosses. As the vanguard team, their combat power was extremely outstanding. They were the strongest small elite combat team under Han Shao. The armed steel cavalry, oathkeepers, beast-type soldiers, and other types of mechanical lifeforms charged forward and engaged in close combat with these elite demon Batmen. It was a complete one-sided slaughter. The commander-grade demon Batmen were sliced into pieces by the various advanced close combat mechanical weapons. The enemy's spirit form hunters that could flash joined the battle and were captured by the mechanical lifeforms' restraining devices. Psionic Prime continued to split and reassemble. His dazzling attacks easily cut the demonic Batman captain into a pile of minced meat. After reassembling, he turned around and looked around. His teammates had basically finished their battle and wiped out an elite summoned creature squad. Humph, easy. Silver Flash let go of the corpse of an elite demon Batman and let it fall to the ground. Unfortunately, this is a planetary defense battle. If it was an attack, I could have fired at full power, and the battle would have ended long ago. Bullsh *T. Bullsh *T. Crimson flame rolled in the air. Silver Flash ignored him, and turned to look at the battlefield of the 7 Beyond grade as in the distance. Unfortunately, we're not strong enough. I really hope we can get closer to the battlefield and help Father. Hearing this, Giant King Kong threw away the blue-gold statue that was shattered and replied, "Father is protecting us. We're clearly weapons made by Father, but he's protecting us. Is this the fatherly love that those creatures were talking about?" Silver Flash was curious. Just as Psionic Prime was about to speak, a piercing sound came from the sky and attracted the attention of many people. Shio! Many mechanical lives looked up. In the sky far away, a giant dragon spun and fell from outer space, leaving behind a large amount of dragon blood. It was burning with flames all over its body, smashing a large number of mechanical soldiers and summoned creatures far away like a meteor. It instantly passed through the height of the battlefield and smashed toward the ground, shrinking into a red dot the size of a rice grain in everyone's eyes. Boom! The giant dragon was like a space-based kinetic weapon that hit the ground, creating a huge shockwave and causing a large number of buildings to collapse. The one who fell was Milazau's? He's heavily injured? Han Xiao, Baoni, and Austin saw this scene and were shocked. That shouldn't be. Milazau's was strong enough to stall Sagman and Ninja. How could he be heavily injured and defeated so quickly? The three of them were bewildered as they dove toward Milazau's position in unison, dragging the battlefield to the ground. Psyker and the other three followed closely behind. The distance from the sky to the ground was only a matter of the blink of an eye for them. The next moment, Han Xiao and Baoni landed beside the huge crater. Austin controlled the Palace of Hidden Spells to float in midair. Seeing Milazau's current state, the three of them were shocked. Milazau's enormous dragon body was in a terrible state. There was a huge hole in his chest, and the broken bones and organs could be seen. Dragon blood was gushing out, and broken dragon scales were hanging on the edge of the wound. This terrifying wound seemed to be caused by an attack. Baoni was shocked. It was hard to imagine what kind of terrifying attack could cause such a wound to Milazau's tough body. That was not all. New cracks kept appearing on Milazau's body. It was as if some kind of energy was causing continuous damage to his body and destroying his cells. Seeing this, Han Zhao's mechanical suit popped out a needle again and injected a dose of Aurora Life Potion into Milazau's body. However, it only slowed down the speed of the injury and did not show any signs of recovery. As the needle was injected into the wound, the combat notification was triggered. Han Xiao looked at the interface, and his heart skipped a beat. The interface showed Milazau's current state. His health was only left with 63%, and it was still decreasing. There were many negative statuses on his status bar, and two of them were the most terrifying. Cell activity suppression, high. The effect of all healing methods will be reduced by 70%. Duration, unknown. From Ninja. Double corrosion. Receive 12,582 physical damage and 15,733 mental damage per second. Duration, unknown. From Ninja. Ugh. Milazau's groaned, looked up at Han Xiao and the others, and said weakly, "Be careful, they brought the 10,000 deity scepter with them." Before he finished, Sagman and Ninja landed, and the 6 beyond grade as of the enemy gathered. Han Xiao and the others looked up and saw the weapon that injured Milazau's. It was the 10,000 deity scepter floating beside Sagman. It's actually this famous universal treasure. Han Zhao's face darkened. The Arcane Church is really going all out this time. They've even taken something like that out? Austin's expression suddenly changed, and he immediately wanted to retreat. He had fulfilled his promise to help and felt that he had already done his best. He did not want to die for this. Relying on the defense and mobility of the Palace of Hidden Spells, he had the confidence to participate in this battle where there was a huge disparity in combat strength. However, the 10,000 deity scepter's attacks had a strange nature. It could ignore most physical and energy shield. Basically, one could only dodge and not block. This meant that the Palace of Hidden Spells could not help him block the 10,000 deity scepter's attack. Austin's thoughts were clear. The Arcane Church's target was Black Star and the Dynasty, not him. If he was determined to retreat, the enemy would not waste their beyond grade A combatants chasing after him, and he would definitely be able to escape. He did not want to have a taste of this weapon that could threaten a beyond grade A's life. This old man wants to run. Although he did not know how to read minds, Han Xiao knew what Austin was thinking when he saw the hesitation on his face. The appearance of the 10,000 deity scepter was beyond his expectations. If he had known that the enemy had such a trump card, he would not have separated himself from Milazau's. With a solemn expression, Han Shao injected a few more needles into Milizau's. Only then did his injuries stop worsening and gradually recover. Although high cell activity suppression weakened the effect of the Aurora Life Potion, Han Shao had a large stock of potions. It would be the same even if he injected a few more times. It would just take longer for him to recover. However, the enemy had 6 beyond grade as they would not give them too much time. Whoosh! The 6 of them surrounded Han Shao, Milizau's, and Bayoni in midair. The pressure they gave off was comparable to the sky falling. As for Austin, he was isolated by them. Don't interfere. This is your last warning. Cisco looked at Austin. Austin glanced at Han Shao, pursed his lips, and did not dare make a move. The 10,000 deity scepter floated in front of Sagman, tilted downward, and aimed at Milizau's, who could not move. A look of despair appeared in Milizau's eyes. He was very clear about his own situation. Although he did not know what kind of miraculous medicine Han Shao had used to heal his injuries, he would most likely enter a state of near death if he was hit one more time, and he would be at the mercy of his enemies. Just as Sagman was about to activate the 10,000 deity scepter, Han Shao suddenly took a deep breath and said loudly, "Don't you guys want the evolution cube?" Sagman's actions paused and he narrowed his eyes. He did not activate the 10,000 deity scepter immediately. "You want to hand it over in exchange for a chance to live?" "That's right." Han Shao took a deep breath, took out the evolution cube, and secretly removed the sealing effect of the spacetime amber. The 6 of them focused on the small silver cube in Han Zhao's hand. Cisco's expression changed. At this moment, he regained his psychic senses toward the evolution cube. His eyes sparkled, and he said with certainty, "This is the real deal." Sagman nodded, looked at Han Shao, and changed the topic. "However, do you have the right to negotiate now? If we kill you, we can still get the evolution cube. Why should we agree to your request? Whether we capture you guys or kill you, the decision is in our hands. Do you think you have the right to choose?" "No, you're wrong." Han Zhao's 5 fingers tightened slightly, and he said with a deep voice, "If I destroy the portable shell of the evolution cube here and release its huge body, hee. Can you guys take this thing away before the dynasty's reinforcements arrive?" Sagman narrowed his eyes, not surprised at all. Before the operation, the Arcane Church had already guessed that Black Star would very likely destroy the portable device of the evolution cube when he was at the end of his rope. Thus, they had already prepared for this. God's bargaining chip with them was the information of the evolutionary civilization. He had asked the Arcane Church to create a special device to transport the evolution cube, and it was currently in the fleet. However, God had left something behind. As long as the transaction was completed, he would provide the information of the portable version of the evolution cube. Therefore, if Black Star was willing to hand over the portable version of the evolution cube, it would save them a lot of trouble. "Alright, as long as you surrender and hand over the evolution cube, we can spare your lives. The upper echelons will be happy to see the dynasty pay a price in exchange for you captives." Sagman agreed to this request, and the lives of the 3 of them were in his hands. His face was calm and indifferent. He was the representative of the 6 of them and could make decisions on the spot. Captives were better than death. Although both would anger the dynasty, the former would have more bargaining chips to deal with the dynasty. Although Milizau's was annoyed at the crisis brought by Han Shao, seeing Han Shao hand over the evolution cube and beg for their lives, he could not help but feel sad. This time, he suddenly realized that Han Shao had quietly stepped on him. He knew that Han Shao had a plan, so he used magic to connect the consciousness of the 3 of them and started communicating. Han Shao did not show any abnormalities and seemed to heave a sigh of relief. "As a show of sincerity, I'll tell you the password to activate the portable mode of the evolution cube. Then, He did not care about Sagman's reaction and directly entered the activation program. According to the information provided by ES-God, activating the evolution cube did require a special method. Han Zhao's words were not a problem, and verifying it on the spot might prevent ES-God's information from deceiving them. When you become a captive, we'll have plenty of time to demonstrate. Sagman didn't notice the problem at first, but the next moment, he suddenly realized something, and his expression changed as he shouted sternly, "Don't worry, we'll have more than enough time to demonstrate." "No. Stop right there." Han Xiao ignored him and completed the activation program. The next moment, he activated the evolution energy inside, and it surged toward the 6 of them in midair. The 6 of them hurriedly released their shield. If they were hit by the evolution energy, they would turn into a black cocoon and enter the evolution process. Although they could forcefully stop the evolution process and regain their mobility, they would also be controlled for a certain period of time. Sagman's killing intent toward Han Xiao instantly reached its peak. "We gave you a chance to live, but you did not cherish it and even tried to scheme against us. You're seeking death. You're seeking death." Without saying anything, Sagman directly used the 10,000 deity scepter and shot it toward Milizhao's. He would cut off his wings first, and there would be time to slowly torture Black Star afterward. Hum hum hum. The 10,000 deity scepter floating in the air vibrated again and suddenly launched an attack. The god phantoms gathered into an energy pillar and blasted out. Milizhao's thought about what Han Xiao had just said and could only choose to believe him. He ignored the attack of the 10,000 deity scepter and released offensive spells to attack Sagman and the other 5 at the same time. Baoni also did the same and launched attacks to pin down the 6 of them. The surrounding mechanical troops also received the order to fire at the same time. On the other side, Han Xiao opened his arms and released mechanical balls one after another. They floated in the path of the 10,000 deity scepter's energy pillar, forming 2 layers of barriers. Because they were all spherical, the gaps in the first layer were filled up with the second layer. Then, these mechanical balls rapidly underwent nanotransformation and retracted their shells, revealing translucent amber balls inside. After staying on Planet Lighthouse for more than half a month, Han Xiao had already used the spacetime amber to create a large number of amber balls. The 6 people from the Arcane Church retreated to avoid the evolution energy. While dispersing the attacks of Han Xiao and the other 2, they paid attention to the results of this attack. Seeing this, a mocking smile appeared on Sagman's face. "Shields? In front of the 10,000 deity scepter, shields are useless." "What?" Before he could finish his sentence, the next scene made all 6 of them widen their eyes in shock. The energy pillar shot out by the 10,000 deity scepter did not penetrate the translucent spherical shield, as they had expected. Instead, it slid across the barrier and shot in all directions. Like a water pillar hitting a lotus leaf, it did not penetrate the barrier at all. Milizhao's and Baoni also widened their eyes in disbelief. Earlier, when Han Xiao said that he could block the attack of the 10,000 deity scepter, they could only believe it. Now that he had really succeeded, the 2 of them could not help but be stunned. The reason why Han Xiao was so certain was not because he blindly believed in the effects of the spacetime amber, but because in the later version of the World Tree Civilization war in his previous life, the Arcane Church had used the 10,000 deity scepter before and was defeated by the spacetime amber. Boom! Just as both sides were stunned, Han Xiao, who knew that the spacetime amber could block the 10,000 deity scepter, took this short opportunity and made the amber ball barrier spread out in all directions toward the enemy, turning into a moving shield. Sagman and the other 5 had already recovered from their shock. They hurriedly used long-range attacks to try and get the 10,000 deity scepter back. However, The amber balls that spread out in midair moved to the front of these long-range attacks with the help of the micro-thrusters, blocking all the psychic, magic, and light energy attacks of the enemy and causing them to deviate from their target. The 6 of them did not expect this translucent spherical shield to be able to block all their energy attacks without being damaged at all. They were shocked. What kind of strange thing is this? It can block all attacks? By the time they realized that although physical attacks were ineffective, they could use kinetic energy to knock these amber balls away, it was already too late. Han Shao used Void Hyperdrive and moved some distance away before he was interrupted. He then grabbed the 10,000 deity scepter and charged into the sky. With the 10,000 deity scepter snatched away, Sagman and the other 5 abandoned the others without hesitation and chased after Han Shao, swearing to take back the 10,000 deity scepter. The 6 of them used all their means, and Han Shao only managed to escape for less than a minute before the 6 of them caught up. The combined attacks of 6 beyond grade, as were not something he could block at all. He was blasted away without any room to retaliate. His health instantly plummeted. Han Shao gritted his teeth and threw away the 10,000 deity scepter in his hands. Seeing this, Sagman immediately used his light energy tentacles to grab the 10,000 deity scepter and snatched it back. However, before he could even heave a sigh of relief, he suddenly realized that the 10,000 deity scepter had been sealed in a translucent spherical substance. No energy could penetrate it. It was exactly the same substance as the spherical shield that blocked the 10,000 deity scepter. Sagman's expression changed drastically. What did you do? Chapter 844. Light Energy Shockwaves, Mana Pyrolysis Rays, Pugilist Shockwaves, Psychic Bombs, Compressed Water Lines, and many other beyond Grade A attacks focused on him. Han Zhao's psionic shield shattered, his mechanical suit shattered, and his body flew out uncontrollably. His vision spun, and the galaxy seemed to have turned into meteors. It took him a lot of effort to stabilize his body and float in outer space. His body was in intense pain, and the cells in his body were being destroyed and regenerated. Not far behind them was the enormous galactic battlefield where the fleets were fighting, and below their feet was the outline of an iron-gray planet. Sagman and the other 5 took back the 10,000 deity scepter and discovered that Han Shao had tampered with it. Their expressions changed drastically. Seeing Sagman's shocked and angry expression, Han Shao could not help but smile despite the intense pain all over his body. He was secretly excited. This was worth it. The threat of the 10,000 deity scepter was too great. Even if each person could only use it once in a short period of time, they could still use it 6 times in total. If the enemy used this killing weapon without any restraint, they would not even have a chance to fight back. Their only hope was to freeze the enemy's 10,000 deity scepter. The core of the plan was the spacetime amber, which could seal the 10,000 deity scepter. They had already been in a desperate situation earlier, so this combo was actually quite risky. First, they would pretend to surrender and take out the evolution cube under the enemy's supervision. Then, they would immediately launch an attack and use the evolution energy to force the enemy away. 2 of his teammates and the Mech Legion would help to hold them back. Then, based on his experience in his previous life, he would use the amber ball to block the 10,000 deity scepter, causing the enemy to be stunned for a moment to create an opening. Then, he would use the amber to block the long-range energy attack of the 6 people from the Arcane Church. This was the first time the spacetime amber had shown its power in the universe. The enemy did not know what it was used for and was caught off guard. Only then did he have a short chance to come into contact with the 10,000 deity scepter. Because of the soul connection, the production efficiency of the spacetime amber had increased. The size of the scepter was not large, and he had delayed it for about a minute, which was enough time to seal it. The 10,000 deity scepter is frozen in the amber, blocking all energy. They won't be able to open the amber, so I won't be able to use this killing weapon in this battle. Han Xiao clenched his fists in excitement. He had temporarily disabled the enemy's trump card. This battle could still be fought. Sagman grabbed the amber ball that sealed the 10,000 deity scepter. His arms glowed brightly as he pressed on the amber ball. Light energy particles gushed out from both sides of the amber ball. However, the amber ball was indestructible. The smooth and translucent surface of the amber ball was covered by the light energy particles and turned into a dazzling golden egg. His 5 teammates could no longer sit still and used all their means. However, they could not break through the amber ball and could only look at the 10,000 deity scepter inside. They could see it but could not touch it. What is this thing made of? Why can't it be broken? Sagman was frustrated. He then stared at Han Xiao coldly, and through Psyker's psychic voice transmission, he yelled, "B*****, what did you do?" There was no record of Black Star having this ability. They were not prepared. Could this be a new ability of Black Star? Or had he been hiding this trump card all along? Han Xiaoxin chuckled in his heart. It was a secret that he had obtained the spacetime amber in the flickering world, and he had not revealed it to anyone. Only now did he reveal this trump card for the first time. What did I do? The 10,000 deity scepter is so precious. I only added an extra lock on it for you. It's absolutely safe. No need to thank me. It's free. Han Xiao chuckled and said with a playful tone, "I wonder if you're satisfied with my sealing skills?" This mocking tone infuriated Sagman, and his heart was burning with rage. He had thought that Black Star and the others would not be able to resist, and victory was already in his grasp. Who would have thought that he would be tricked and fail? Sagman gritted his teeth and tossed the 10,000 deity scepter to Ninja after failing to break the amber seal. We can't break through Black Star's means now, but at least the 10,000 deity scepter is still in our hands. When we return, we'll get the Arcane Church to figure out how to take it out. Ninja had no choice but to do as he was told. The Arcane Church had given this universal treasure to them because they wanted them to deal with Milizaos quickly. Now, both he and Sagman had exhausted a lot of energy from using the 10,000 deity scepter, and their condition had deteriorated. However, they did not manage to kill one of the 3 pillars of the dynasty. Not only that, the 10,000 deity scepter had been sealed by Black Star with some strange means, and they could not use this trump card for the time being. Not only could they not end the battle quickly, but their goal of intimidating God was also ruined. They had gone for wool and come home shorn. Seeing Sagman and the others put away the 10,000 deity scepter, a playful smile appeared on Han Zhao's face. He knew that these people thought that the 10,000 deity scepter was only temporarily unusable and felt that they could get the Arcane Church to remove the effect of the spacetime amber when they returned. They still don't know the severity of the problem. Han Zhao's lips curled up. The spacetime amber was the remains of the spacetime freezer, and its effect came from the Esper ability to freeze spacetime. However, during the process of drifting in the universe, it had absorbed all kinds of strange cosmic radiation and had long mutated, transforming into a space wonder-level treasure. Most of the things that could be called space wonders were phenomena that could not be explained by current theories. If it was so easy to use technology to break the effect of the spacetime amber, there would not have been so many beyond grade as in his previous life dying because of it. Such a thought flashed through Han Zhao's mind, and he quickly retracted his smile and stared at the 6 of them. Although he had sealed the opponent's trump card, the suppression brought by the 6 beyond grade as still existed. He had only completed a partial counterattack, and the battle was far from over. The few of them faced each other outside the atmosphere, and after more than a minute, Austin, Milizaos, and Bayoni arrived. Seeing that their temporary plan had succeeded and Han Xiao had really restricted the enemy's 10,000 deity scepter, Milizaos was overjoyed and could not help but give Han Shao a look of approval. "You're very reliable, little brother. Although you're the source of this crisis and caused me to be heavily injured, seeing that you saved my life, I won't be angry at you." The number of beyond grade as gathered had reached a shocking 10. The energy waves emitted by the 10 of them were intertwined, and it was displayed as the most dazzling high-energy reaction area on the radars of countless battleships. The number of energy waves was like countless stars exploding, constantly rising. "Do it!" Sagman and the others did not want to waste any more time and attack. Han Shao originally wanted to waste some time by talking, but seeing this, he had no choice but to counterattack. The 10 beyond grade as fought together and moved rapidly in the galactic battlefield, crushing all the battleships in their way and leaving behind a trail of explosions. At the same time, on the mother planet of the Red Empire in the constellation Corridor, ruler Uranril received an urgent report from Terakov and learned that the Arcane Church had launched a surprise attack on Planet Lighthouse. She was enraged. Arcane Church, Radiant Federation. Uranril's face was ashen. It was not that she did not know that these two old rivals would cause trouble when the dynasty was exploring the flickering world. Originally, she thought that these two old rivals would at most play some dirty tricks and scheme in the dark. However, she did not expect them to be so arrogant and directly attack the dynasty's outpost in the new star field, wanting to kill 3 of the dynasties beyond grade as. Did they think that the dynasty was weak and could be bullied? It would have been fine if it was a scheme, but the dynasty would never back down in a direct confrontation. Uranril immediately issued dozens of orders to mobilize the dynasty's army. She did not think that there was much chance of survival on Planet Lighthouse, so she had already started preparing for her retaliation. The dynasty's style had always been to pay blood for blood, and this was a tradition passed down from the exploration era. If one was not ruthless, one would not be able to stand firm. Since they were already stepped on, if they did not react like a mad dog, others would think that the dynasty was weak in reality because of the flickering world. At the same time, in the Shattered Star Ring section of the player forums. Originally, most of the players were exploring outside, but because Han Shao was on Planet Lighthouse, a small portion of the players would occasionally return. When the battle broke out, there were players who stayed on Planet Lighthouse, and Pork Bun was one of them. He hurriedly posted on the forums. "Something big has happened. Planet Lighthouse has been attacked by an unknown force, and it's now a mess. There are probably 10 beyond grade A NPCs participating in this battle." When the news spread, the army players who were exploring outside were all stunned. 10 beyond grade as, "Oh my god, what kind of scene is this? How did you create such a huge piece of news in the blink of an eye?" In the Planet Lighthouse universe battlefield, the 10 beyond grade as were fighting back and forth. Due to Austin's arrival and the 10,000 deity scepter being sealed, the Arcane Church's advantage had been greatly reduced. Although Han Shao and the other 3 were in a passive position, they would not lose any time soon. "Do you have any other plans?" Milizaus was quite convinced by Han Zhao's idea at this time. While fighting, he communicated through the mental communication network of the few of them. "There are still 6 enemies, and we're still at a disadvantage. Our goal hasn't changed, and we can only hold on until reinforcements arrive." Han Shao dodged a burst of light energy and controlled the Mech Legion to launch a round of focused fire, forcing Sagman back. He then continued, "The enemy also knows this and wants to end this quickly. Milizaus, although you're injured, you're still very durable. Austin has the protection of the Palace of Hidden Spells, so he won't be defeated easily. As for me, the nickname Indestructible Body is not for nothing. The one most likely to be targeted by the enemy is Baoni. He's so fragile, so he'll definitely be the first to die." Baoni was speechless. "Damn it, I can't even refute this. If I'm not as strong as you guys, I'm not worthy of being a beyond grade A." Milizaus was helpless. "Let him stay on my back. I'll help him block a portion of the attacks." Do you have any other plans? Why don't you guys stay behind and I run? The three of them were confused. What's wrong with you, bro? Cough, cough, it was a slip of the tongue. Han Xiao let out a dry cough and sighed. There's really nothing else we can do now. This is a head-on battle, and there's no way to take any shortcuts. Yes, God is still on his way. Once he arrives, the situation will be even worse for us. Everyone was silent. Thinking of Yes God, who had yet to appear, their hearts sank. This time, Han Xiao made up his mind and said, Guys, I have a request. Please help me hold on for 5 minutes. I won't participate in the battle during this time. Protect me well. What do you want to do? Milizhao's was stunned. I have an explosive ability that can temporarily increase my combat strength, but I can't be disturbed by the outside world during this period. I just need you guys to hold on for 5 minutes. Han Xiao naturally would not reveal the existence of the promotion mission, so he could only make up a reason. Milizhao's was helpless. I just said that the situation is serious, but you're choosing to slack off? Also, what kind of explosive ability would require a beyond grade A to hold on for 5 minutes? How much can it increase my combat strength? Austin suddenly asked. It should be quite a bit. Han Xiao was not sure. Are you sure you want to do this? Milizhao said with a deep voice. Even if you unleash your explosive ability, it's impossible for you to become extremely strong all of a sudden. You're still a distance away from me, and this little increase in combat strength won't affect the situation much. Without you in 5 minutes, we'll be in even more danger. You have to know that Yes God hasn't arrived yet, so we can't suffer too much damage now. It's precisely because Yes God hasn't arrived that I've decided to give it a try. If Yes God arrives, it'll be even more dangerous for you guys to hold on for 5 minutes. Before he arrives, try to increase our combat strength as much as possible. Maybe it'll bring about a turn for the better. Han Xiao clenched his teeth. That was one of the reasons. The other reason was that the advancement this time was no small matter. Not only was it a class advancement, but it was also a new race evolution that could bring him new abilities. Furthermore, as long as he broke through this limit, he could continue to level up. The increase would definitely be significant. At this time, Austin suddenly said, All right, enter the Palace of Hidden Spells. I'll protect you for 5 minutes. Can you do it? Han Zhao's tone was strange. Not long ago, Austin had even thought of retreating. Now that the 10,000 deity scepter was sealed by Han Xiao and was no longer a fatal threat, Austin did not choose to retreat after hesitating. He did not expect him to take on such a difficult mission. This was completely different from the old man in his impression of him. Could it be that, unknowingly, our relationship has become so deep? Or could it be that this old man really values his reputation that much? As if he had read Han Xiaoxin's mind, a smile appeared on Austin's tender face. Just when you sealed the 10,000 deity scepter, I suddenly felt that letting you live might be a good thing. Han Xiao was stunned. He thought for a while and said, If we survive this time, I'll give you some space-time amber balls. That's what I used to block the 10,000 deity scepter. I was waiting for you to say that. Austin suddenly laughed out loud. Although he wanted to sound bold and heroic, his voice was so cute and tender. He was indeed tempted by the space-time amber, and wanted to study what it was. However, this was not the only reason. The Arcane Church's 10,000 deity scepter was defeated, which was out of his expectations. The current situation was very clear. If he stayed, they could still fight. If he ran, the dynasty's combat power would be weakened further. The chances of Black Star and the other two surviving were extremely slim. It could be said that his decision would determine the life and death of the Planet Lighthouse troop. He had already stepped into this quagmire. If he ran away midway, both the Arcane Church and the dynasty would be dissatisfied with him. If he stayed and continued to help Black Star, he would only offend one side. More importantly, Austin wanted Han Xiao to live. He liked this guy, who always gave him surprises more and more. Isn't it just 5 minutes? Austin's eyes narrowed. I'm not that weak. Han Xiao opened the secondary dimensional army box, put away the mech legion, and flew to the side of the Palace of Hidden Spells under the cover of his teammates. A gap appeared in the defensive formation of the Palace of Hidden Spells, allowing him to enter. Without saying a word, he charged into the Palace of Hidden Spells, activated a mechanical army, and took out the spacetime amber to seal himself. After obtaining the spacetime amber for so long, he had already done all kinds of experiments, including sealing himself. He knew what it was like to be frozen by the spacetime amber. His character's status was shown as frozen. He could still move his thoughts and sense the outside world, but he could not move or release energy. He could not connect to the quantum network. Philip followed the instructions left by Han Xiao and controlled the mechanical army to surround Han Xiao. He could use the spacetime amber to undo the seal at any time. Sealing himself was a safety measure to prevent any unexpected interruptions during the escape process. There were only 3 people left fighting against the 6 people from the Arcane Church. The pressure increased tremendously. Sagman and the others did not know what Han Xiao was doing when they saw that he was not attacking. However, with the 10,000 deity scepter as an example, they did not dare ignore Han Xiao's abnormal actions. Instead, they turned to focus their fire on the Palace of Hidden Spells. The Palace of Hidden Spells endured the ferocious attacks. In less than 3 minutes, the clock-like defensive formations protecting the Palace of Hidden Spells collapsed one after another, exploding into colorful magic fragments. The entire palace shook non-stop and cracks appeared. More and more magic circuits were destroyed, and many functions failed one after another. Austin and the forbidden sorcerers cast spells crazily. Colorful magic runes shot into the magic formation of the Palace of Hidden Spells, and colorful magic radiance flowed within, repairing the damaged parts of the magic formation. However, the speed of repairing was not as fast as the speed of destroying. After all, the enemy outnumbered them by twice. On the other side, Milizau's injuries were getting more and more serious. Although the situation was getting worse and worse, Milizau's and the other 2 did not give it their all. They would not be killed by the enemy within 5 minutes. Austin's Palace of Hidden Spells was very sturdy. Although its durability had plummeted, it still managed to block all of the enemy's attacks. At the same time, the Dynasty's fleet and the Arcane Church's fleet were still fighting fiercely. High-energy light beams shot into the enemy's formation, and dazzling electric arcs appeared on the shields of the spaceships one after another. Terekov had already boarded the battleship and joined the battlefield. He commanded the battle and formed a defensive line to resist the crazy attacks of the Arcane Church. The Arcane Church's fleet outnumbered the defending army by a few times. The dark energy furnace of the enemy's disc-shaped assault ships expanded and contracted as if they were breathing, shooting out red arcs of dark energy that bombarded the giant blue psionic barrier of Planet Lighthouse's defensive line. With such a large scale of cannon fire, each round was enough to destroy the surface of dozens of planets. At this moment, the psionic barrier was exploding with dark energy. The Arcane Church's butterfly-shaped Glorious Sun-class, armed main battleship turned into a complete form. Hundreds of pairs of highly malleable soft alloy wings opened up, and the appearance of the main battleship turned into a sun-like pattern. The edges of each pair of butterfly wings glowed with a faint red light, continuously shooting out light blades as if they were attacking. If one looked closely, the edges of the butterfly wings were densely packed with cannon barrels. When the dense cannon fire was fired together, it formed something like a light blade. The Red Empire's main battleships were in a neat formation. The cannons fired together as if they could tear the universe apart with light beams. The 3 universal civilizations had many types of battleships, and they focused more on technology. The Red Empire's battleships were known for their powerful firepower, sturdy armor, and powerful weapons. How long until the reinforcements arrive? Terekov stared at the star map of the battlefield and asked without turning his head. The first batch of rapid reaction forces will arrive in about 4 minutes, the adjutant hastily replied. Terekov nodded. Planet Lighthouse was under attack, and he had already ordered all the troops to return. There were more than 3 million battleships. As long as they could hold on until they arrived, the size of the fleet would be similar to the Arcane churches, and the pressure would be reduced by a lot. If not for him leading the fleet to resist the attacks of the Arcane church's fleet, they would not even have the chance to wait for reinforcements. He did not have any extra energy to pay attention to the Battle of the Beyond Grade as. He could only pray that Black Star and the others would not be defeated so quickly. Where are the fallen Ark troops now? Chief Commander, the fleet we sent out is still entangled with the fallen Arkansas. They will only arrive in about 22 minutes. Terekov nodded. Just as he was about to speak, the radar suddenly sounded. Warning. Unknown high-energy source detected. Comparing database. Comparison complete. Target identity. Yes, God. Terekov was shocked. He hurriedly looked up and saw a figure floating in space outside the battlefield. Yes, God. Didn't you say 20 minutes? Why is he? Terekov was shocked. He suddenly realized that there were no troops beside Yes-God and immediately understood. This guy had abandoned his fleet and arrived early. Yes-God turned around and locked his gaze on the battlefield where the Beyond Grade as were fighting. He was not satisfied with the speed of the fleet, so he abandoned the fleet and used his teleportation Esper ability time and time again to arrive at the battlefield on Planet Lighthouse. Observing the situation on the battlefield, Yes-God narrowed his eyes. Black Star, where did he go? If you're interested, you can search the public account Chi Pagia. Occasionally, I'll post some information. Chapter 845. Author, I am the Fallen Immortal. My nickname is the Cute Little Fairy. I think it's a girl. I tried it and it turned out to be a guy. Even better. The title of the book is I Am the Legendary Boss. If you are interested, you can take a look. Introduction. What if he transmigrated to become an NPC? This thought took root and germinated in William's mind. Thus, he decided. He wanted to become the strongest NPC in history. He wanted to stack the thickest armor and take the most vicious hits. Who said that NPCs had to be killed by players? Who said that NPCs had to level up slower than players? Who said that NPCs had to drop equipment? I can drop even more. Ba ba ba. Anyway, it was impossible for him to die. He could only bluff the players and NPCs and live a life of hooliganism. Sigh, the chosen one in front, please wait. I see that you are unafraid of death and have an iron head. How about I sell this legendary helmet to you for 100,000 gold coins? Recommended book for Godly Mechanic. Please wait for a moment. After the content is updated, please refresh the page to get the latest update. Chapter 846. The next moment, Yes-God's figure flashed, and he directly teleported into the battlefield of the 10 Beyond Grade as. The moment he appeared, the expressions of both sides changed. The pressure on Milizaus and the other two multiplied. Yes-God had arrived so quickly. It had not even been 5 minutes yet. The Beyond Grade as of the Arcane Church also raised their guard, except for one person. Cisco, who was bombarding the Palace of Hidden Spells with his psychic energy, suddenly opened his 7 eyes wide with shock. Why are you here? Due to the grudge between them, the Arcane Church hid the fact that Yes-God was participating in this battle from him. Now that his enemy had appeared, Cisco's expression changed drastically. Yes-God turned to look at him and revealed a faint smile. However, in Cisco's eyes, it was no different from a provocation. Don't be rash. Sagman said through psychic communication with a deep voice. Yes, God is our temporary ally. Cisco was shocked, and his tone turned cold. So, you guys knew about this beforehand? The other 5 were silent. This was an order from the Arcane Church. It was indeed not right to hide this information from their allies. Dylan, you knew about this too? Cisco snorted coldly. Sorry, I only knew about this a moment before we left. Dylan did not want to face the questioning of his good friend, so he vented his frustration on his attacks. He clasped his hands together and aimed at the Palace of Hidden Spells. Water flowed around his arms and turned into a high-energy blue laser under the activation of his Esper ability. It shot out along his arms and bombarded the colorful defensive formation of the Palace of Hidden Spells. Cisco, the mission is more important. We'll talk about other things later, Sagman interrupted. Cisco's eyes darkened. He stopped looking at Yesgod and focused on his attack. The battle was in its climax, and he had to end it quickly. Now was not the time to seek revenge. He had to think for his race, so he naturally could not disrupt the Arcane Church's plan at this juncture. Thus, he held his nose and endured. Seeing this, Yesgod also retracted his gaze. To be honest, although Cisco was one of the top figures in the entire universe, he was nothing in his eyes. Those beyond grade, as he had killed in the past, were not much weaker than Cisco. Of the 10 beyond grade as present, only Milizaus and Sagman were worthy of his attention. As for Austin, he had only heard of his name but had never met him before. This was especially so for Milizaus. Only this old dragon had a record of killing a beyond grade A super like him. Yesgod had fought him several times and knew how strong this old dragon was. Thus, when he saw Milizaus' injuries, a look of surprise flashed through his eyes. This wound was caused by a one-time attack. The Arcane Church must have used a special weapon to heavily injure him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been injured so quickly. Yesgod narrowed his eyes and became even more wary of the Arcane Church. He was worried that he would be betrayed after this. However, at this moment, he was still on the same side as the Arcane Church. Observing the battlefield, Yesgod could not see Black Star or his Mech Legion. With a confused expression, he used his Esper ability to connect to Sagman's consciousness and asked, Black Star isn't here. Did you guys let him escape? Sagman had just shot out a platinum energy attack, which penetrated Milizaus' magic defense and exploded on his dragon back. Hearing this, he said with a deep voice, Black Star has left the battle and is hiding in the Palace of Hidden Spells. I don't know what he's up to. Hiding? Yesgod paused and asked, Are you sure the evolution cube is with him? It's confirmed. He just took it out and used it. Good. Yesgod nodded. The next moment, he appeared above the Palace of Hidden Spells and stepped on the surface of the defensive magic formation. When the magic formation was activated, it did not affect him at all. Austin, who was sitting at the top of the Palace of Hidden Spells, looked up and saw Yesgod's feet. The two of them were separated by a thick defensive magic formation. Austin's eyes narrowed. He opened his arms, and the dozens of magic books around him started flipping on their own. Whoosh! As the pages flipped, colorful magic runes were born and quickly landed on the Palace of Hidden Spells. Following the magic circuits everywhere, they were instantly transmitted to the control core of the Palace of Hidden Spells. This was how the Palace of Hidden Spells operated. The next moment, the defensive magic formation thousands of meters under Yesgod's feet suddenly changed color. Magic energy exploded, and a fountain of colorful magic energy burst out from under his feet and swallowed Yesgod. Austin was looking up at the result of this attack when an unfamiliar voice suddenly sounded in his ears. It was like thunder in his heart. Magician Austin? You're quite strong. Yesgod was standing behind him without him knowing. He used energy refraction, plasma, dimension gap, teleportation, and many other Esper abilities at the same time to directly pass through the defensive magic formation of the Palace of Hidden Spells that the 6 people from the Arcane Church could not break through. God's strength was not just his strength but also his rich Esper abilities. *T. Austin was shocked. Although there were many restrictions inside the Palace of Hidden Spells, their defense was not as strong as the defensive magic formation outside. If God slipped in, the Palace of Hidden Spells would be broken through from the inside. He would not be able to stop him. Boom! The defensive magic formation was shattered by God, who had activated Strength Esper ability, Star Toss. Austin's small body flew out like a cannonball. The red-robed mages around Austin hurriedly cast their spells, wanting to stop God. However, the next moment their bodies collapsed, and they turned into dust one after another. Looking at the strange way their companions died, the mages further away were all frightened. Seeing that they were about to turn into dust, they hurriedly retreated, not daring to get close to God. God put down his hand and a satisfied look flashed through his eyes. He had used the Esper ability that came from ashes. Using it against targets weaker than him was simply a god-tier AoE Esper ability. Then, God activated his Esper ability and instantly scanned the entire Palace of Hidden Spells. However, he was stunned. He did not sense Han Zhao's energy waves. His senses were blocked by the spacetime amber. This situation made him frown. Where did he go, Austin stabilized himself in the distance. He would not be so easily injured by God. Remembering the mission of stalling for time, he decisively counterattacked and interfered with God. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them immediately started fighting inside the Palace of Hidden Spells, and the shockwaves destroyed many buildings. Although Austin was not God's match, if he went all out, he could still stall God for some time. However, the wounds on his body were increasing rapidly, and he could not be bothered to control the Palace of Hidden Spells. Without Austin's control, the operation of the Palace of Hidden Spells slowed down. Although the red-robed mages and forbidden sorcerers who were still alive tried their best to control the Palace of Hidden Spells, they could not hold on at all with so many beyond grade as surrounding them. Kacha. The defensive formation shattered layer by layer, finally reaching a critical point and exploding. A huge hole appeared on the defensive barrier of the Palace of Hidden Spells, and a powerful suction force came from it. The Palace of Hidden Spells was a sealed space, and all the air inside was sucked out. It's finally broken. Sagman hurriedly rushed in, afraid that God would snatch the evolution cube first. At this time, before anyone could observe the situation, a familiar energy wave gushed out from within the Palace of Hidden Spells. A tower in the Palace of Hidden Spells shattered, and a figure shot out. A fist rapidly enlarged in God's eyes. Whoosh! Bang! The fist landed on God's raised arm. The huge impact passed through God's body and formed an air cannon, exploding into the defensive circle of the Palace of Hidden Spells and turning into a hurricane. This figure was Han Zhao. His fist was pressed against God's arm, and they clashed again and again. Feeling the shocking force coming from his arm, God raised his brows with a surprised expression. Compared to the last time we fought, you've become much stronger. The last time they fought in the Central Galaxy, he had an overwhelming advantage over Black Star. However, the energy level that Black Star displayed now made him look at him in a different light. The improvement was too obvious. What God did not know was that the last time they fought, Han Zhao was only at level 240, stepping on the threshold of Beyond Grade A. Now that he was at level 260, his strength had increased significantly. However, at this time, Han Zhao had not advanced. However, he had already left the battle just now, and the promotion mission was finally displayed as completed. He could complete it at any time. That was close, so close. After wrestling with God, Han Xiaoxin heaved a sigh of relief. God had entered the battle early, causing the situation to worsen rapidly. Thankfully, this guy had spent some time observing the situation and was then held back by Austin. This allowed him to leave the battle for 5 minutes. Seeing that the two of them were in close contact, Han Xiaoxin hesitated for a moment and suppressed the urge to use God character summon card, Esper Silence. Although he had already leveled up and could advance at any time, the level difference between him and God was still there. The effect of Esper Silence depended on the level, energy, and luck of both parties. If the duration was too short, the damage done to God would be limited. The 6 beyond grade as of the Arcane Church were not made of wood. Although God and the Arcane Church were wary of each other, Sagman and the others would not be so short-sighted as to watch their reinforcements suffer heavy losses. Even if they were unwilling, they would still protect God. Under such circumstances, using this character summon card would only be a waste. Thinking of this, Han Xiao did not continue to fight with God. He opened the secondary dimensional army box again and released the mech army that he had stored earlier. Promotion. LV-260 promotion mission completed. Plus 45 end. 1 Yendi equals 355 health equals 365 stamina in an instant. His cells changed drastically, and his body was turned upside down. Intense pain exploded, hitting every nerve. Every promotion required time to transform, and it would not be completed instantly. Thankfully, Han Xiao was already familiar with this kind of pain. As a mechanic, he relied on his mechanical army to fight most of the time, so he could still fight through the pain. God sharply noticed the changes in Han Xiao, and his eyes narrowed. This guy's energy fluctuation is increasing in the midst of battle? The other beyond grade as also noticed Han Xiao's abnormality, and were surprised. They were not unfamiliar with this situation. Wasn't this the evolution of life form? Is this what you mean by the eruption? Austin was stunned. He did not expect Han Xiao's eruption to be a breakthrough in life form. Every beyond grade A had experienced such a life form evolution many times, but their evolution was done slowly, and some even took decades. However, to evolve in the midst of battle and compress years of evolution into such a short period of time, they had never seen such a thing in their lives. Could this be the reason why Black Star broke the record of becoming a beyond grade A super? Is this his special talent? Everyone was bewildered, and they all had such guesses. A notification popped up on the interface, and Han Xiao quickly chose the race evolution option. His talent would be merged into the Black Star race. He could only take a quick look at his new talents and abilities during the battle. He was already distracted by the pain of the transformation and could not afford to slack off anymore. He forced himself to focus and continue fighting. The strength of the Mech Legion had obviously increased, and Han Xiao could feel the pressure from the enemies lessening. 7 against 4, God's participation had made the situation worse. Han Xiao did not expect to turn the situation around with just one promotion. The promotion was to increase the strength of his side and stall for as long as possible. The Arcane Church had 6 beyond grade as an God. His side was at a huge disadvantage, and with such a huge gap in strength, if the enemies did not reveal any flaws, there would be no chance for them to counterattack. Han Xiaoxin had plenty of tricks up his sleeve, and he would not lose his cool because of the sudden increase in strength. With such a dangerous situation, he really did not have the capital to be reckless. There was only one word: stability. Austin's Palace of Hidden Spells was heavily damaged, and Milizau's was not in a good state. Han Xiao returned to the battlefield and could only take on the role of a meat shield, taking the initiative to block the attacks for his teammate. His promotion had increased his tankiness significantly. Together with the Aurora character summon card that he had not been willing to use for many years, Han Shao took on about half of the enemy's attacks by himself. Although he was in a passive position, he would be able to hold on for a while. Compared to the main battlefield, the area occupied by the beyond grade A combatants was actually very small. While they were fighting, the situation on the main battlefield also changed. First, the outer fleets of Planet Lighthouse returned to provide reinforcements one after another, and the situation gradually stabilized. However, with the arrival of the fallen Ark fleet, Tarakov's fleet was surrounded, and they were once again in a passive position. The defenders of Planet Lighthouse were constantly being eaten away, and Tarakov's face was solemn. His eyes never left the 3D map of the battlefield. His brain was calculating rapidly, and he gave out orders one after another, trying his best to minimize the casualties of his troops. He took some time to take a look at the situation of the beyond grade, as on both sides, and secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Thankfully, Black Star's side was holding off the enemy beyond grade as. Otherwise, it would have been troublesome. The beyond grade as were clearly the weakest link of the enemy, and they were the ones most likely to be defeated, yet they were barely holding on. Although Tarakov was not a beyond grade A super, he could imagine how terrifying the pressure on Black Star's side was. Clenching his teeth, Tarakov shouted, "Is there any news of the reinforcements? How long will it take for them to arrive at the Stargate entrance?" The adjutant was extremely busy and immediately went to check the news. He was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. Suddenly, he was overjoyed and excitedly shouted, "Commander, the reinforcements have arrived. Commander-in-Chief, the reinforcements sent by the two nearest military camps have arrived at the entrance of the Stargate. The reinforcements from the border strongholds of Geru, Renault, and the Crown Star Cluster have all been gathered. Also, His Excellency Maximilian, His Excellency Heber, and His Excellency Ravenlaudy are about to arrive. The reinforcements were finally here." Tarakov's eyes sparkled, and he yelled, "Engineering team, immediately assemble the Stargate and reactivate the channel. Let the reinforcements in." The Dynasty fleet immediately changed their formation, using the fleet as the defense line and assembling the portable Stargate in the center. Seeing this, the expression of the commander of the Arcane Church turned ugly. The resistance of the Dynasty fleet was stronger than he had imagined. Under the command of Tarakov, the defense of Planet Lighthouse was extremely resilient. There were many times when the commander of the Arcane Church thought that the Dynasty fleet was about to be defeated, but they still managed to hold on. The situation was the same on the beyond grade A battlefield. The four people of the Dynasty were too stubborn. He immediately contacted Sagman and said, "We can't let the Dynasty fleet assemble the Stargate. You guys hold back the enemy beyond grade as and send one or two people to cut into the Dynasty's formation and destroy their Stargate." Sagman was unwilling to give up. Looking at Black Star, who was still alive despite taking huge damage, he clenched his teeth and made a decision. "Mercer, you and Dylan will go and destroy the Dynasty's Stargate. We'll hold back the four of them here." The two mages had to control the Palace of Hidden Spells and could not be separated. Cisco was sensing the evolution cube and could not leave, and he had to stay behind to hold back Milizaus and Esgod. Thus, he could only send Mercer and Dylan. Sagman originally wanted to end the battle quickly and get rid of Han Shao and the others. However, Austin had appeared, and the 10,000 deity scepter had been sealed by the enemy. At this point, he no longer had the confidence to end the battle quickly. The tenacity of Han Shao and the others was beyond his expectations. Since he could not end the battle quickly, destroying the Dynasty's Stargate became the more important mission. Sagman and the others went from attacking to holding back Black Star and the others, making it impossible for them to stop them from destroying the Stargate. Mercer and Dylan nodded and immediately left the battlefield, charging toward the Dynasty's fleet. With two less opponents, the pressure on Han Shao and the others was greatly reduced. However, they were not happy but worried. Only reinforcements could turn the situation around. They could not let the enemy destroy the Stargate's assembly. Now is the time to decide the outcome. This thought appeared in everyone's mind at the same time. Han Shao exchanged energy with Yes God, and his mechanical suit was destroyed. He then changed into his seventh mechanical suit and turned to look at Mercer and Dylan, who had left, with a gleam in his eyes. Finally, someone separated. Chapter 847. The fleet was the absolute main force of every civilization. The destructive efficiency of a beyond grade A was naturally not comparable to a military fleet of millions. However, the strength of an individual was different from the strength of a group. An individual with great strength had an irreplaceable role on the battlefield, just like the difference between a piece of titanium alloy and a rock. Compared to the entire fleet, a beyond grade A had strong individual combat strength, small size, and high agility. They could fight the fleet head-on and easily break through the fleet's defensive formation, cutting into the enemy's formation and executing a series of actions such as decapitation. During the battle, Han Shao had analyzed the direction of the situation. As long as the dynasty stabilized and lasted until the Stargate was assembled, the Arcane Church would definitely launch a surprise attack on the Stargate in order to cut off the reinforcements' path. At this time, the 6 beyond grade as on the enemy side would very likely change their strategy, leaving most of them to stall the 4 from the dynasty while sending a few to attack the Stargate. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for. Battle was the best catalyst. After fighting for so long, the pain of the promotion had gradually subsided, and Han Shao had gradually adapted to the changes in his body. The race evolution method for a beyond grade A was to give him 5 options and let him choose 2 of them. Then, all the talents of these 2 races would be listed, and he would be allowed to choose 1 talent from each of the 2 to merge into the talent column of the Black Star race. Compared to the previous race evolution, the race evolution after beyond grade A was less random and had more choices. It allowed for a better combination. The 2 races Han Shao had chosen this time were Void Saint and Void Magician. Apart from the plus 45 Yendi bonus, these 2 also gave him the attributes of the promotion: STR plus 266, DX plus 310, Yendi plus 454, INT plus 537, MYS plus 372, Siege plus 177, and Energy plus 6,400. With the bonuses of Grade S, Advanced Strengthened Life, Eternal Body, and Extraordinary Physique, Han Zhao's HP had already exceeded the 3 million mark. Apart from the help of his 3 teammates, the Advanced Strengthened Life, he also provided a temporary 10% increase to all attributes every time he lost 40% of his HP. In the beginning, it was the most dangerous. He had to use the Aurora character summon card twice in order to get through the most dangerous period. When his attributes were stacked up, he was finally able to hold on. In terms of the mechanical army, his main class had changed from Emperor Mechanic to Lord Mechanic, and his machinery affinity had increased once again. With the buff from the Perfect Mechanical Sense character summon card, the combat strength of his mechanical army had a significant increase, and they were the greatest hindrance to the enemy. Among the many talents of Void Saint and Void Magician, Han Shao purposely chose 2 talents that would be helpful to the current situation. The way he saw it, as long as he used them well and grasped the opportunity, these 2 talents would be enough to turn the situation around. The so-called opportunity was when the enemy beyond grade as split up. Dylan and Mercer were like 2 drill bits, charging into the formation of the dynasty's fleet and heading straight for the few stargates that were being constructed. Sagman and the other 3 stayed behind to hold back Han Shao and the others. Milizaus could only watch as the enemy split up. He tried to provide reinforcements but was stopped by Sagman and the others. Only Han Shao split out a portion of his mechanical army to chase after Dylan and Mercer. The size of the mech legion was too large, and Sagman and the others were not able to intercept all of them. However, they were not too concerned. Dylan had 2 beyond grade as, and they would not be unable to deal with such a small group of beyond grade as. When Terekov saw Dylan and Mercer cutting in, he immediately adjusted the formation and ordered the fleet to block their path. Although the speed of their advance was slowed down, it could not stop them from shortening the distance between them and the Stargate. Compared to a large fleet, the beyond grade as were too agile on the battlefield. Black Star, we can't go on like this. Austin and I have less and less magic, and we can't hold on forever. We can't let the Arcane Church interrupt our reinforcements. Milizaus was extremely anxious. The enemy has the advantage of numbers and has the initiative, forcing us to defend, Han Shao said with a deep voice. If we can make them lose a beyond grade A combatant, the pressure on us will be reduced to the greatest extent and cut off their hope. The enemy has been maintaining a situation where they have the advantage in numbers. We have no chance. No, I have an idea that can deal with those two. Maybe we can take the risk. Han Zhao's tone was solemn. However, yes, God is only chasing after me. His ability can stop me, and he's a greater threat than the others. How high is the success rate? If yes, God interferes, there might only be a 20% chance of success. However, if we're willing to invest, the success rate can be over 70%. What kind of investment? Yes, God's goal is to evolve. His alliance with the Arcane Church definitely involves an exchange of benefit. I know what he wants. If we give him what he wants. I understand. Let's do that. Now is not the time to be calculative. It's better than dying a slow death. Milizaus agreed. All right. Han Shao gritted his teeth and made up his mind. He glanced at Yes-God and suddenly opened his arms, activating one of his new talents. Void Prison. The 4 mages present felt a large amount of void dimension energy being released from Han Zhao's body and quickly enveloped the battlefield. The next moment, everyone realized that the space around them had become viscous, and their movements had become sluggish. After sensing for a while, the 4 mages realized that this was not a simple sluggish ability. The void dimension had descended and overlapped with this space, causing the space attribute of this area to be temporarily changed, forming a strange domain. The distance between them seemed to have shrunk, and they could not get close to each other no matter what. He used the power of the void dimension to rewrite this space? Ninja frowned and tried to cast a spell to get rid of the void prison domain, but he realized that the circulation of his magic had also become sluggish. Spatial freezing type of skills weren't considered rare, but due to the differences in the cause, the difficulty of dispelling them was different. As for the Void Realm Prison, that came from the Void Saint. It borrowed the power of the Void Dimension to form a special domain that could be maintained for quite a long period of time. It was extremely effective against the abrupt face doll. Beyond grade A mages who could control multidimensional energy could get rid of this domain, but it was extremely troublesome to get rid of the overlapping dimensions. Even if Ninja and Taylor worked together, it would still take some time to get rid of it. This ability did not differentiate between friend and foe, and even the movements of Milizaus and the mech legion around them were affected. Only 2 people could move freely. One was Han Shao, who had the Void Dimension Esper ability, and the other was Yes-God, who had the Esper ability of Dimension Crevice. Yes-God teleported again and appeared behind Han Shao. He gathered his Esper ability and punched toward Han Zhao's back with a playful smile on his face. This is not the first time we've fought. You don't think that such an ability will work on me, do you? Is that so? How about this? Han Shao narrowed his eyes. The fist was approaching his back, but Han Shao did not even turn his head. Instead, he looked at the fleet battlefield in the distance and locked his eyes on Mercer. Yes, God felt a subtle space fluctuation coming from Han Zhao's body. The next moment, a light flashed in front of him, and Han Shao turned into Mercer. Before Mercer could react to his sudden appearance, he was sent flying by God's punch. God was stunned for a moment before he realized what had happened. He looked at the fleet battlefield in the distance and saw that Mercer had turned into Han Shao. Void Swap was the talent of the Void Magician. It consumed 15% of one's health and energy to forcefully swap places with a target. It had a cooldown of 320 seconds. Void Prison and Void Swap were new talents that Han Shao had purposely combined to create this situation. A space-swapping ability. Yes, God was a little surprised. It was not that he had not seen such an ability before. He even had one himself. However, his Esper ability could only swap objects and was not effective on himself or others of the same level. Sagman and the others were also shocked. Since when did Black Star have such an ability? This was not recorded in any intelligence. Everyone looked into the distance and saw the situation clearly. Their expressions changed slightly. Mercer had been swapped, which meant that Dylan was alone. Han Shao had created a one-on-one situation. The two of them were deep in the dynasty's fleet formation and were very far away from everyone else. Coupled with the control of the Void Prison, they could not provide reinforcements immediately. Black Star actually hid such an ability. Ninja was surprised. Break this domain as soon as possible and send people to support Dylan, Sagman said with a deep voice. If Dylan was held back, the dynasty would be able to successfully assemble the Stargate. In everyone's eyes, this was Han Zhao's goal. However, no one would have guessed that Han Zhao's real goal was to reduce the number of people in the Arcane Church. In the hearts of Sagman and the others, Black Star did not have the strength to defeat Dylan quickly. Therefore, no one thought that Han Shao wanted to defeat Dylan by creating a one-on-one situation. If it was Milizau's, it would be more likely. Even if they guessed it, they did not think that Han Shao could do it. After all, Dylan was a Beyond Grade A who specialized in defense and crowd control. He would not be defeated so easily. Han Zhao's vision blurred, and he had already swapped places with Mercer and appeared not far away from Dylan. The long-range troops that were sent to chase him earlier gathered together. There were about 400,000 mechanical soldiers, and they opened fire at Dylan. Psionic cannons bombarded the barrier he created with his Esper ability, creating holes in it. Although Dylan was shocked by Han Zhao's sudden appearance, he did not panic at all. He could continuously convert the seawater he stored to form an energy barrier, so his defense was very strong. The way he saw it, Black Star alone would not be able to do anything to him in a short period of time. However, he did not know how terrifying Han Shao was when he did not hold back at all. This is my only chance. Han Zhao's eyes narrowed. In a situation where his opponent was alone, there were no other enemies to disturb him. This was the only environment where he could attack with all his might. The next moment, Han Shao aimed at Dylan, who was surrounded by the seawater barrier, and activated the Ames character summon card that he had been saving for a long time. A powerful force field erupted, and under the heavy pressure that had no blind spots, the seawater that formed the energy barrier shattered. Dylan was shocked to find that he was actually bound by the force field. Ames character summon card, Gaze of the Dragon. Back when he was at the Calamity grade, Han Shao had used Ames character summon card. After that, he obtained a new blank character summon card and went to record Ames' ability. He had never encountered a situation where he needed to use it and had kept it until now. This powerful control ability could not bind an expert of the same level for too long. Dylan was currently using his Esper ability to resist the force field and could escape at any time. Han Shao was about to continue, but at this moment, God teleported over again. His dimension crevice and teleportation esper ability could ignore the void prison and was the only one who could destroy Han Zhao's plan. However, he did not come over to protect Dylan. He only had Han Zhao's evolution cube in his eyes. This guy is indeed difficult to deal with. Han Shao had long predicted God's actions and made up his mind. He activated the evolution cube that he had prepared and shot a beam of evolution energy toward God. God's expression changed, and he suddenly stopped in midair. However, his next reaction was completely different from Sagman and the others. Not only did God not dodge, he even took the initiative to face the evolution energy that Han Shao shot out. The pitch-black evolution energy surged into his body, and a black cocoon spread across his body. The condition of his cooperation with the Arcane Church was to help the Arcane Church obtain the evolution cube in exchange for the right to use the evolution cube once. At this moment, Han Shao directly shot a beam of evolution energy at him. This was God's dream target. He did not care about anything else and directly received it with his face. This was Han Zhao's scheme. Since your target is my evolution energy, I'll give it to you. Do you want to continue attacking me or get the target first? God was directly controlled by Han Shao, and no one came to stop Han Zhao's actions. While Dylan was controlled by AIM's character summon card, Han Shao directly used Void Hyperdrive to get close and threw a luck curse on Dylan. He then grabbed Dylan's shoulder and activated the God character summon card. Esper Silence. At this moment, the force field that Ames controlled disappeared. Dylan was about to use his Esper ability to push Han Shao away when he suddenly realized that he could no longer feel the existence of his Esper ability. His expression changed drastically. You, open fire. Han Shao activated all of his explosive abilities, including Gene Liberation, and roared in the quantum network. The next moment, the mechanical army surrounding them opened fire at the two of them. Psionic beams focused on the two of them. Dylan was an Esper. Without his Esper ability, he was a defenseless target. Furthermore, he did not have true damage immunity. The blue ball of light suddenly expanded and exploded. When the light dissipated, Dylan was covered in blood and on the verge of death. The mechanical soldiers around him extended a nanoparticle tentacle and merged into a few huge chain-like mechanical restraints, wrapping around Dylan's limbs and pulling them straight, firmly restraining his body. All kinds of mechanical traps surrounded Dylan, releasing all kinds of gravitational and electromagnetic energy to restrict Dylan's movements. All of the mechanical soldiers' cannons were aimed at Dylan, ready to fire at any moment. Han Shao was right behind Dylan, his arm tightly around Dylan's neck, and he stared coldly in Sagman's direction. His intention was clear. He was using Dylan's life as a threat. The expressions of Sagman, Cisco, and the others changed drastically. This change was beyond everyone's expectations. Dylan was captured by Black Star right after they started fighting? How could Black Star have such combat strength? How is this possible? Cisco's eyes widened and his heart was in turmoil. Sagman's face was filled with shock. He finally understood that Black Star was not going to hold Dylan back but to kill him directly. To reduce their numbers. This time, the two mages from the Arcane Church finally broke free from the Void Prison. Regardless of friend or foe, they all looked at Han Shao in shock. How did he capture a Beyond Grade A in such a short period of time? Sagman and the others did not dare continue attacking Milizaus and the others, afraid that Han Shao would kill Dylan directly. Milizaus and the other two were still in shock and did not move. This is troublesome. Sagman felt troubled. Dylan was obviously heavily injured, and his life was in Black Star's hands. If they continued to fight, Dylan would definitely die, not to mention whether they could complete the mission without losing a Beyond Grade A combatant. If it was an ordinary person, they could just abandon him, but Dylan was a beyond grade A combatant. Both sides did not make a move, and the situation seemed to be in a stalemate. Sagman clenched his teeth and secretly gave Ninjia a look. Ninjia understood and secretly sent a telepathic message to Esgod. Esgod, continue to move. Use your teleportation to destroy the dynasty's Stargate. It was not that Sagman did not want to save Dylan, but Dylan had already been captured. If they did not resolve this, they would not be able to advance or retreat. If they wanted to break the stalemate, they could only abandon Dylan and continue the mission. However, he did not want to abandon his teammates, so it was best to let Esgod take action. Esgod was not from the Arcane Church. If Black Star killed Dylan because of this, it would have nothing to do with them. Only then could they break the stalemate. However, Esgod ignored him and directly teleported away from the battlefield, returning to the main ship of the fallen Ark fleet where Hakazan was. Hearing the noise, Hakazan turned around and was shocked by Esgod's current appearance. Black patterns were swimming around Esgod's body like small black snakes under his skin. It looked a little scary. Your Excellency Esgod, you're injured? Injured? No. I feel great now. Esgod smiled. The evolution energy had entered his body and was temporarily suppressed by him, which was why he did not form a cocoon on the spot. Order the fleet to retreat immediately and leave the battlefield. Hakazan was stunned. Aren't we going to continue attacking? The goal has been achieved. Let the Arcane Church restrain the dynasty's fleet. We'll retreat. Esgod had achieved his goal after obtaining the evolution energy, so there was no need to continue working together. He could not wait to find a safe place to enter his evolution state. How would he have the time to fight with the Arcane Church? Esgod knew that this was Han Zhao's scheme, but as long as his goal was achieved, he did not mind falling for it. Suppressing the evolution energy would affect his own combat strength. The way he saw it, completing his evolution was more important than dealing with Black Star. As for credibility, since when did we have such a thing? The fallen Ark fleet immediately ceased fire. No matter how the Arcane Church's commander roared, it could not change their behavior of retreating from the battlefield. Seeing this, Han Zhao's mouth twitched. Esgod's integrity really did not disappoint. Satisfying Esgod's request was a last resort. He was the strongest person present, and as long as Esgod was around, the situation would always be dangerous. His teleportation ability was too big of a threat to the Stargate, so they had to think of a way to make him leave the battlefield. Let's get through this crisis first, then think of a way to deal with Esgod in the future. He cooperated with the Arcane Church, so the dynasty will not let him go so easily. Han Xiaoxin was certain and did not hesitate. On the other side, Esgod's escape also shocked the people of the Arcane Church. Esgod. Sagman was furious, and his expression was extremely ugly. In just a short while, the situation that they had the upper hand suddenly changed. One was captured and the other escaped. Of the 7 beyond grade only 5 were left in the blink of an eye. And the one who caused the situation to change was Han Xiao. Sagman gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. Chapter 848. The fallen Ark stopped the exchange of fire, and the millions of quadrangular pyramid spaceships turned into streams of hyperdrive, leaving the battlefield of Planet Lighthouse and disappearing in the blink of an eye. This action of betraying one's teammates had clearly been practiced countless times. As Esgod fled with his troops, the situation of the battle instantly changed. After losing their powerful external aid, the number of battleships on the Arcane Church's side was reduced by almost half. At this time, the defenders of Planet Lighthouse had already retracted all the outer fleets and shrunk the defense line. The size of the fleets of both sides was now equal, and the Arcane Church could no longer suppress Esgod. Damn it! Sagman clenched his teeth as he watched this scene, but he was filled with helplessness. He was not in the mood to blame Esgod for betraying their alliance. He knew that although both sides were working together, the upper echelons of the Arcane Church did not have much hope in Esgod. It was precisely because they were full of confidence in Esgod's integrity that they gathered 6 beyond grade as to launch a surprise attack with the 10,000 deity scepter, intending to end the battle before Esgod entered the battlefield. In fact, according to the calculations of the Arcane Church, the success rate of Sagman and the others' operation was really high. 6 against 3, they had the upper hand. As long as they used the 10,000 deity scepter to make Milizaus lose his ability to fight, the plan would have succeeded by 80%, and capturing 3 beyond grade as of the dynasty alive would not be impossible. However, what they did not expect was that Han Zhao's backup plan had taken effect. Austin, who had been observing in the dark, intervened and turned the situation from 3 against 6 into 4 against 6. Although there was only one more person, it greatly reduced the strength of the 6 from the Arcane Church. More importantly, the 10,000 deity scepter was actually countered by Black Star's strange method and even sealed. If not for that, we would have probably captured Black Star, snatched the evolution cube, and retreated with the fleet. This thought flashed through the minds of Sagman and the others, and they became more and more frustrated. Observing the current unfavorable situation, Sagman only felt a headache coming on. If it was just Esgod retreating, the remaining 6 of them actually still had a chance to complete the mission. This was because Esgod's participation in the previous battle was not completely useless. After fighting for so long, Milizaus' injuries had worsened, and his combat strength had decreased greatly. Austin's Palace of Hidden Spells had been damaged to a certain extent, and many magic circuits had malfunctioned, causing a large number of magic circles to fail. Baoni was also not in a good state, and only Black Star was still holding on. However, his mech legion had also suffered heavy losses. Meanwhile, the 6 of them were still in good condition. At the very least, they had preserved more of their combat power than Han Zhao's group of 4. If they continued fighting, their chances of winning were still very high. However, Dylan had been captured by Black Star, which made Sagman's plan fail. In this battle, Black Star displayed a new ability that was not mentioned in the intelligence report. Sagman had to admit that he was indeed wary of Black Star. He did not know what other trump cards this guy had up his sleeve. What do we do now? Ninja frowned and asked in the psychic communication network. Sagman's gaze swept across the gigantic galactic battlefield and saw the scene of the fleet exchanging fire. He saw that the Arcane Church fleet had turned from advancing layer by layer to a stalemate, unable to break through the dynasty's heavy defenses and attack the Stargate that they were assembling. His face was green, and his tones sounded like he was chewing on steel. "Inform the commander, we're retreating." "You're abandoning Dylan?" Cisco's eyes were filled with hostility. "Sagman is right." Ninja nodded. "Dylan has been captured and Esgod has retreated. It's now 5 against 4, and the enemy still has a hostage. Our plan to end the battle quickly has failed. There are only 2 paths before us. One is to continue fighting, and the other is to retreat decisively. The enemy's condition is not good. If we continue fighting, there's no doubt that we'll definitely win. However, time is a problem. We've already lost 2 combatants, and it'll be difficult to end the battle in a short period of time. Don't forget, the flickering world is the dynasty's territory. We don't have any foundation here, and only have the secret Stargate as our escape route. The longer we fight, the greater the risk. Furthermore, Esgod wants to use us to cover the retreat. We can't let him succeed," Taylor chimed in. "Then, Dylan, the risk of saving him is too great. It might provoke Black Star to kill people, so we can only leave him behind. At least he can keep his life. After this, we can only rely on the Arcane Church to negotiate with the Red Empire." Ninja shook his head. Even if the dynasty was willing to exchange the hostage, the Arcane Church would definitely pay a huge price. Furthermore, the dynasty might not be willing to do so. His good friend was in the hands of Black Star, and he did not know how the dynasty would treat him. Cisco was in a terrible mood. Let's retreat while the dynasty is still building the Stargate. Sagman paused and said with a complicated tone, "Inform the upper echelons that this operation has failed." As soon as these words were said, everyone's mood sank. 6 against 4, and they were even captured by the enemy. This was a huge loss of face. The operation that was supposed to succeed had actually failed, and the 10,000 deity scepter was even heavily injured. What would the upper echelons of the Arcane Church think of them? Almost every step that turned the situation around was done by Han Shao. If looks could kill, Sagman and the others would have already pierced him full of holes. Although they did not want to admit it, they knew that they were forced to retreat by Black Star. Cisco looked at the heavily injured Dylan from afar with an apologetic look in his eyes. Seeing his eyes, Dylan knew that he had been abandoned. The feeling of being abandoned did not feel good. Thinking of how he would be treated after becoming a captive, his heart kept sinking. The effect of Esper silence had passed, and Dylan's Esper ability had recovered. However, the previous round of attacks with true damage had all landed on his body. Without the continuous defensive barrier of his Esper ability, his body was not tanky enough, and he was heavily injured. If not for the fact that Han Shao wanted to capture him alive, he felt that he would have been killed. He could not help but feel lingering fear. At this moment, Han Shao was right in front of Dylan, and his arm around Dylan's neck contained explosive strength. Dylan was not a pugilist, and although his physique was far beyond a calamity grade, it was nothing compared to a beyond grade A. Coupled with the various mechanical traps, Dylan could not break free at all. Furthermore, the mechanical army was aiming at him, so fighting back would be playing with his life and Black Star's life. Sagman's group of 5 retreated toward the Arcane Church's fleet, entering their spaceships and retreating with the Arcane Church's fleet. The retreat was organized and did not reveal any flaws. The Arcane Church's fleet relied on their superior mobility to gradually break free from the entanglement and pull away from the dynasty's fleet. Milizau's and the other two came to Black Star's side, and Baoni felt a sense of relief. Luckily, you caught one of the enemies beyond grade as, or they wouldn't have retreated so easily. This guy is the Arcane Church's Sea Spirit Dylan. His combat strength is not bad, but you caught him so quickly. What did you do to him? Han Shao looked at Baoni strangely. Trust me, you're not unfamiliar with this move at all. Back when they fought against ES-God in the Central Galaxy, Baoni had been hit by the real version of Esper Silence, and the memory was still fresh in his mind. However, he did not expect Han Shao to use this ability as well. Esper Silence was the nemesis of Espers, and there were probably not many Espers in the entire universe who could defeat ES-God in a one-on-one fight. Han Shao had a total of 2 chances to use the ES-God character summon card. After using it once on Dylan, Han Shao planned to save it for ES-God the next time. Before the battle, he had drawn 2 blank character summon cards, but he did not use them on ES-God. After all, ES-God had collected too many Esper abilities, and the possibility of drawing Esper Silence the second time was too slim. Drawing random abilities would not be of much use to him, and he still needed to copy Reynolds' perfect mechanical sense. On the other side, Milizau's looked at Sagman and the others retreating and asked with a deep voice, "Sagman and the others have escaped. Do we chase after them?" "Don't count me in if you chase after them." Austin tightened his robe and calmly said, "Black Star, I have already repaid the favor I owed you. Now you owe me a huge favor." "I know." Han Shao was helpless. To be honest, if not for Austin keeping his promise, the dynasty would have definitely lost people. Austin nodded with satisfaction. He then turned around to look at the forbidden sorcerers who had suffered heavy losses, and a pained expression appeared in his eyes. These people were all his elites, and it was extremely difficult to nurture them. As for the heavily damaged palace of hidden spells, Austin did not feel any heartache at all. He just needed to spend some time to repair it, and he did not care about the cost of the materials. As a noble mage who had broken away from lowly interests, earning money was as easy as breathing. Austin was not an ally of the dynasty, so it was not good for him to ask others for help. Milizaus then looked at Baoni and asked, "What about you? Don't look for me for anything risky." Baoni rejected him directly. What a joke. It was not easy for him to get through this crisis, and the enemy had already retreated. He did not want to be in danger again. It would be better to stay here and wait for reinforcement. "You're really a coward," Milizaus said with disdain. "I'm the most fragile. I'm afraid of death. Is that enough?" Baoni snorted and turned to look at Han Xiao. "Are you going to chase after them? What do you think?" Han Xiao's mouth twitched. "Since neither Austin nor you are going, what's the point of chasing after them? Since none of you are going." Milizaus suddenly changed the topic and said with a relieved tone, "I'm relieved." The three of them all looked at him. "What are you looking at? Do you see the hole in my chest? I'm the most heavily injured. Are you guys going to force me to chase after them and get beaten up? Can you be more considerate of this old dragon?" Han Xiao was speechless. "Since you're not going yourself, why the hell did you ask?" However, that was indeed the case. Other than him, the other three were not in good condition. The risk of chasing after them was too high. It was no wonder they were unwilling. This time, Terekov also contacted them and said with a shocked tone, "Black Star, you captured a Beyond Grade A from the Arcane Church? It's as you can see." Han Xiao turned to look in the direction of the flagship and casually touched Dylan's head. It was wet and slippery, but it was quite round. "Very good. You made the Arcane Church pay the price. This way we have a bargaining chip in our hands." Terekov's tone became excited. He paused for a while and became serious again. "The Arcane Church is retreating. I'll send out troops to chase after them. You guys stay here and wait for orders. Don't go chasing after the enemy. Don't worry. Even if you beg us, we won't go." Han Xiao was helpless. "That's for the best." Terekov nodded. After resolving the surprise attack of the Arcane Church, not only did they not lose any of their high-level combatants, Black Star even captured the enemy Beyond Grade A, making a huge contribution. Terekov did not want them to chase after the enemy. The Stargate was to be assembled near Planet Lighthouse. This thing needed to be marked in space, and could not be used while moving. If the Arcane Church made a feint and suddenly counterattacked after leaving Planet Lighthouse's range to lure the enemy in, it would increase the risk and might even ruin the advantage that Black Star had worked so hard to gain. Terekov was not in a hurry to chase after the Arcane Church. As a veteran, he preferred to play it safe. Therefore, he only planned to send out scouts to chase after the Arcane Church and lock onto their escape route. As for Black Star and the others, they would stay on Planet Lighthouse and wait for reinforcements to arrive. This was the safest way and would not give the enemy any chance. After the fallen Ark left, the Arcane Church fleet also left the battlefield and turned into a stream of light. Terekov sent out a small team to chase after them, while the rest guarded the engineering team and assembled the Stargate step by step. The enemy retreated, and the flames of war were finally extinguished. Han Xiao and the others all heaved a sigh of relief and flew back to their battleships to calculate the losses of their troops. At the same time, Terekov contacted the upper echelons of the dynasty and reported the results of the battle. On the mother planet of the dynasty in the central galaxy, ever since the news of Planet Lighthouse being attacked by the Arcane Church was sent back, it caused an uproar among the upper echelons of the dynasty. Uranril directly gathered all the generals in the conference room, and those who were not present used remote projections to participate in the meeting. Everyone was gathered in the same room, and everyone was excited. Tarakov's first report of the battle showed that they were facing a pincer attack from 7 beyond grade as the Arcane Church and the fallen Arc fleet. The difference in strength was too great, and the situation was extremely dangerous. The upper echelons in the room had already analyzed the situation. Including Urinril, most of them felt that Planet Lighthouse was hopeless and would most likely be wiped out by the Arcane Church. The 3 beyond grade as of the dynasty would either be killed or captured alive. At this moment, everyone was discussing how the dynasty should react to this matter. Her Excellency is right. The Arcane Church and the Radiant Federation worked together to attack our army, killing Marshal Tarakov and 3 beyond grade as. We have to take revenge with an iron fist. Many of the upper echelons agreed. Tarakov had a lot of prestige in the military, and it was very likely that he would be sacrificed this time. Many of his old comrades were filled with the flames of revenge. Urinril also nodded expressionlessly. As soon as she received the news, Urinril had decided to take revenge on the Arcane Church. The dynasty's dignity had been challenged, and they had suffered heavy losses. Under such circumstances, they could not let this matter rest. Otherwise, the dynasty's prestige would hit rock bottom, and their allies would lose their loyalty. Most of the dynasty's soldiers were strong-willed, and most of them agreed with the idea of taking revenge. However, even for a strong civilization like the dynasty, there were still different opinions. A small portion of the people present did not agree with the idea of taking revenge. They were not against the idea of taking revenge, but felt that the dynasty's forces should not be too intense with the flickering world. If they really started a universal war, the dynasty would be in an even more disadvantageous position. Just as everyone was arguing, a new remote projection suddenly appeared in the conference room. It was Tarakov. All the upper echelons present immediately stopped talking and focused on him. Your Excellency, Planet Lighthouse has been defended. The Arcane Church and the fallen Arc troops have been defeated by us. The battle is over, and we're still calculating the losses. Milizaus, Baoni, and Black Star are all fine. Tarakov nodded to everyone present. Hearing this, all the upper echelons present were shocked. You guys defeated all the enemies? Urinril raised her brows, and a hint of surprise flashed through her eyes. Tell me the details. Tarakov nodded and gave a concise account of the battle without adding any details. As they listened, everyone's expression changed. They all noticed the great contributions that Black Star had made in this battle. Secretly arranging to help Austin, stopping the 10,000 deity scepter, capturing Dylan, the Arcane Church's methods were all neutralized by Black Star. It could be said that if not for Black Star, the 3 beyond grade as of the dynasty would not have been able to survive, and the enemy would have really succeeded. The upper echelons of the dynasty exchanged glances and had a deep impression of Han Shao. To be able to turn the tables in such a desperate situation, this new ally of the dynasty seemed to be quite ferocious. Urinril narrowed her eyes. This battle was caused by Black Star, and she was originally a little dissatisfied. Losing 2 of the dynasties beyond grade as for Black Star was not worth it. However, Black Star's achievements made her speechless. He even managed to capture one of the enemies beyond grade as, giving the dynasty a bargaining chip. She could not be picky about this result, and the grudge in her heart disappeared. She could not help but admire Han Shao. However, Urinril would not show it on her face. She nodded slowly without changing her expression. Pass down my order. Mobilize all the dynasty's fleets in the flickering world to pursue the enemy. Also, mobilize the troops in the Shattered Star Ring. If necessary, attack the Stargate stronghold of the Arcane Church in the Shattered Star Ring. Try to finish them off before they return to the Central Galaxy. Also, Urinril paused. Tell Black Star to talk to me directly later. At the same time, the upper echelons of the Arcane Church also received the battle report. Chapter 849. A few minutes earlier, on the mother planet of the Arcane Church on the bright silver spiral arm in the Round Table Hall, the bishops gathered again and sat in their respective seats, resting with their eyes closed. The authority of the Arcane Church was the same as the authority of the king, and faith and politics were inseparable. The bishops held a lot of power, and the robes of every bishop were very luxurious, with different styles, colors and patterns, representing the faith that every bishop was in charge of. The impact of this operation was huge, so the bishops were personally in charge. It had been some time since the multidimensional sky-opening transportation device had sent out the fleet. The Arcane Church did not have a quantum network in the flickering world and needed a special method to send back information. Therefore, the bishops were still waiting for good news from Sagman and the others. One of the bishops looked at the time, nodded, and said, "They should have succeeded already. It's about time, but why is there still no news?" Another bishop was confused. Maybe they're counting the gains. Someone started the conversation, and the rest discussed softly. They did not think that there would be any accidents in this operation. The way they saw it, the cooperation between the Arcane Church and the Radiant Federation this time, using the 10,000 deity scepter and the multidimensional sky-opening transportation device, as well as the external aid God as protection. Their fleet was more than twice the size of planet lighthouses, and their beyond grade A strength was 7-3. Although the other party had one of the three pillars of the dynasty, Milazau's, they had Light Beam Sagman, Divine Spell Ninja, and the infamous God on their side. Their quality and quantity far exceeded the enemy's, so there was no reason for them to lose. This time, the door of the room suddenly opened. The dome of the Round Table Hall was very high, and the door was also 10 meters tall. It was pure white and did not seem to be made of metal but smooth white jade. However, there was no gap between the door and the door, just like a wall. At this time, this white door started to turn into foam from the middle and shrank to the sides, making a bubbling sound like liquid. However, it did not open completely, only revealing a 2-meter-wide gap. A figure walked into the room with his back against the light, and this gap closed behind him. The bishops stopped talking and stood up one after another, bowing their heads respectfully to this person. "Your Excellency." This person was the highest leader of the Arcane Church. Hierarch was just a title in the interstellar language. In the language of the Arcane Church, the position of Hierarch was called Osamitatron, which meant the preaching God's pastoral Holy Spirit. The head instructor nodded and walked to the main seat. The seat was a floating white sphere. He sat down, and the sphere seemed to be soft. It sank down and adjusted itself according to his body shape, adapting to his body structure and becoming the most suitable seat for him. Only then did the bishops sit down. Seeing that the hierarch had only come to wait for news and had no intention of speaking, they did not continue the discussion. After waiting for a while, light spots suddenly appeared in the middle of the round table and gathered together to form the remote projection of the fleet commander. The fleet had finally sent a battle report. The fleet commander saluted with a stiff expression. "Pope, bishops, the battle is over. We are retreating." Come back with the evolution cube. "We will send troops to pick you up," said a bishop who was more impatient. Hearing this, the fleet commander opened his mouth with an awkward expression. Seeing this, everyone was confused. The commander they had sent this time was also an elite of the military. Why was he so embarrassed? "Did something happen to you?" someone asked. "Yes, we did not complete the mission. This operation failed," the fleet commander replied. "The upper echelons had used so many resources to give them an advantage. However, they did not even complete a single mission given by the upper echelons. Not only that, they even lost a beyond grade A super. The commander felt that this was too embarrassing. Furthermore, he knew that his future was probably over. You failed. The bishops were in an uproar. They had used so many resources and had such a huge advantage, yet they still failed. Please kill yourself. Tell us the details. How did you fail? We gave you 2 missions, which were to snatch the evolution cube and kill Milizaus and the other beyond grade as of the dynasty. Don't tell me you did not complete either of them. Yes, we did not defeat Black Star and the other 2, did not snatch the evolution cube, and did not kill or capture any of the dynasties beyond grade as, the bishops' faces twitched. They did not snatch the evolution cube. Alright, after all, Black Star had dispelled Cisco's psychic senses, so it was not impossible for them to fail. However, they should have at least killed a beyond grade A, right? They could not even fulfill this minimum requirement. Did they think that they cooperated with the Radiant Federation and spent so much money to borrow the multidimensional sky-opening transportation device just to send them there for a holiday? A bishop could not help but ask, "You brought the 10,000 deity scepter this time. How could you not even kill a beyond grade A? Did Sagman and the others not use it?" "No, they did. Then how did it end up like this?" "It's Black Star. Sagman and the others originally wanted to use the 10,000 deity scepter to heavily injure Milizaus, but Black Star used some method to block the attack of the 10,000 deity scepter." The bishops frowned. It was not that the 10,000 deity scepter could not be defended, but most methods would be penetrated. They had seen the intelligence on Black Star and understood Black Star's abilities. He did not seem to have the means to block the 10,000 deity scepter. Furthermore, this was the first time the 10,000 deity scepter had been used against him. Before this, Black Star did not know the nature of the 10,000 deity scepter's attack, nor did he know that they would use this weapon. Thus, it was unlikely that he would have made any preparations beforehand. There's one more thing. The 10,000 deity scepter was sealed by Black Star using some unknown method. Sagman and the others said that they could not dispel it. This is the specific situation. As he spoke, the fleet commander pressed the communicator and displayed the current state of the 10,000 deity scepter. The expressions of the bishops changed. The 10,000 deity scepter was their trump card to deter beyond grade as, but it was actually sealed by some kind of substance. No energy could penetrate it. Even beyond grade A mages could not dispel it. What kind of strange substance was this? One of the bishops suppressed his anger and said with a deep voice, "Useless. Bring the 10,000 deity scepter back for research." This time, another person knocked on the table and questioned, "You can't use the 10,000 deity scepter, but you still have 7 beyond grade as. You still have the ability to deal with the enemy. Why did you retreat when you did not complete the mission?" The fleet commander's expression was ugly. He clenched his teeth and said, "Everyone, the enemy has more than 3 beyond grade as. We did not know beforehand that Black Star had secretly reached an agreement with Austin. He had been on standby near Planet Lighthouse and participated in this battle. Yes, God was bribed by Black Star and escaped at the last minute, taking his troops with him. Dylan was captured by Black Star. If this continued, the dynasty's reinforcements would have arrived. We were forced to retreat. After hearing the fleet commander's hasty description of the battle, the bishops could no longer sit still. Their faces were green with shock and anger. The failure of the mission was already infuriating enough, but not only did you not complete the mission, you even lost a beyond grade A? A bunch of trash. If not for the fact that they were beyond grade as, a few of the bishops would have cursed out loud. This time, the Pope, who had been silently listening, spoke with an expressionless face. "Dispatch troops to reinforce the shattered star ring and prevent the dynasty from destroying our local Stargate stations. We must bring Sagman and the others back to the central galaxy and send reinforcements to prevent the Red Empire from intercepting us midway." At the same time, strengthen the border defense of the bright silver arm to prevent the dynasty from retaliating. Inform the troops stationed in the various star fields to enter a state of alert. Then, the Pope stood up, flicked his sleeves and left. Although he did not show any emotions on his face, the bishops knew the Pope's personality very well. He was probably extremely angry. At the same time, the Radiant Federation also received the news. The Arcane Church failed? President Bader was a little shocked. He browsed through the intelligence report and narrowed his eyes. How unexpected! The chief elder tapped his walking stick and said with a strange tone, "Under such circumstances, the Arcane Church was actually defeated by Planet Lighthouse. Isn't that a little too useless?" Bader did not reply. He swiped his finger on the virtual screen and brought up Black Star's information. He slowly said, "Instead of saying that the Arcane Church was defeated by Planet Lighthouse, it's better to say that they fell in the hands of Black Star. Terekov is a famous commander of the Red Empire and is good at defense. With less than half of the enemy's fleet, he should have been able to hold on for some time. This isn't strange. The real breakthrough was the battlefield of the Beyond Grade as Black Star turned the situation around, which changed the entire situation. The Arcane Church lost a Beyond Grade A TSK. They suffered a huge loss this time." The chief elder gloated. Bader also smiled. Although he was cooperating with the Arcane Church, he could not wait to see both sides suffer. No matter how the Red Empire and the Arcane Church fought, the Radiant Federation would still benefit. After all, they did not send out any troops and only lent the multidimensional sky-opening transportation device once. Even if the dynasty wanted to take revenge, they would mainly deal with the Arcane Church. They would not do anything too extreme to the Radiant Federation. "Your Excellency, what do you plan to do next?" Bader crossed his arms and rested his chin on his hand. After pondering for a while, he slowly said, "The Crimson Dynasty will not let go of the Arcane Church's assault team so easily. Mobilize our troops and allies in the Shattered Star Ring to participate in the Dynasty's follow-up pursuit." "You plan to help the Arcane Church escape back?" "No, our cooperation with the Arcane Church was only limited to borrowing the teleportation device. That was just a transaction, and since the transaction is over, there is no need to continue the cooperation." Bader's eyes flashed. "Help the Dynasty intercept the Arcane Church fleet." The chief elder shook his head helplessly. Too bad, betraying their partner so quickly. However, they were not allies with the Arcane Church in the first place. They were only targeting the Dynasty while the Dynasty was exploring the flickering world. The three universal civilizations had always been competitors. If there were benefits, they would cooperate. If there were no benefits, they would fight. Everyone was used to it. The chief elder thought of something and chuckled. "Speaking of which, the biggest winner this time seems to be ES-God." "I don't think so. It's just a chance to use the evolution cube. That little gain is nothing." Bader looked at Han Zhao's information again and slowly said, "The Arcane Church is in the wrong, and the Dynasty will definitely make a statement on this matter. Then, Black Star's achievements in this battle will spread throughout the entire universe. Killing or capturing a Beyond Grade A of the same level will have a completely different deterrent effect. Furthermore, the Arcane Church was mainly targeting him this time, but he forced them to retreat. This is equivalent to stepping on the Arcane Church's position, and his influence will increase tremendously. Not only that, he made a huge contribution in this battle, and his position in the Dynasty will greatly increase. Black Star is the biggest winner this time." As soon as the battle ended, when the upper echelons of the three universal civilizations received the battle report, Han Zhao flew into a Black Star core battleship and told Philip to count the losses and gather the officers. The Black Star Corps did not have many fleets left on Planet Lighthouse. During the battle, the Dynasty's fleet was the main force, so the number of battleships lost was not many. On the other hand, the Calamity-grade Black Star Guards all took action, so it was unknown if they suffered any losses. Walking into the cabin, Aurora was already waiting there. As soon as she saw Han Xiao, she immediately pounced over and bumped into him. Aurora stood on her tiptoes and hugged him, her hands tightly around his waist. "It's great that you're fine. I was so worried." Aurora still had some lingering fear in her voice. She buried her head in Han Zhao's embrace as though she wanted to crawl into Han Zhao's ape-pack. Smelling the fresh scent on Aurora's body, Han Zhao's tensed nerves gradually relaxed. Facing 7 beyond grade, as at the same time, was extremely dangerous. Not only was he being beaten up, but he also had to endure the pain of his promotion. Only now that he relaxed did he feel a wave of fatigue. His body was aching all over, and the pain of his promotion had not completely disappeared. Looking down at Aurora and feeling the softness in his arms, Han Xiao felt much better. He raised his hand and rubbed Aurora's head. Her soft hair was extremely smooth to the touch. "Where's your sister? Is she okay?" I've given her life force a few times. She's still alive." At this time, the hatch opened again, and Hela walked in with a group of Black Star Guards. Everyone was injured, but no one was dead. This was all thanks to the life force potion that Aurora had made. Every Black Star Guard was equipped with some Aurora's potion, which was enough to protect the lives of these Calamity-grade Black Star Guards. Aurora turned around and looked out from the gap between Han Zhao's arms. She saw that Hela was injured and bleeding. She hurriedly left Han Zhao's embrace and ran over. "Ah, sister, you're injured. Let me heal you." Hela waved her hands and rejected her. "The battle is over. These small injuries will recover after some time. Don't waste your life force." As she spoke, she turned around and looked at the Black Star Guards behind her. "You guys are not allowed to use it either. Except for Fu Ding." Hardaway and the others were still hoping that Aurora would heal them, but after hearing Hela's words, they could only give up. "Why should I be an exception?" Fu Ding pointed at his head with a helpless expression. "Don't misunderstand. Chen Xing wanted me to ask." "Black Star said that you were lucky and told us to rub off on you," Hela said honestly. Then, Hela turned to look at Han Xiao and sized him up. Seeing that he did not lose any limbs, she heaved a sigh of relief. Her red lips moved slightly as though she wanted to say something, but she did not say anything in the end and only nodded. This time, Hardaway suddenly asked, "I heard that you captured a Beyond Grade A. Where is he?" As soon as this was said, everyone became curious. This was the first time their army commander had defeated a Beyond Grade A in a head-on battle. They all wanted to see the Beyond Grade A captive. Han Xiao smiled and had the mechanical army bring Dylan in. Dylan's entire body was bound by machinery like a steel mummy. Only his face was exposed. This bit of restraint could not restrict the movements of a Beyond Grade A, but Dylan knew that he had been abandoned. He was in the enemy's camp and his teammates had fled. Resistance was meaningless, so he could only accept his fate and accept the reality of being a captive. The Black Star Guards all came up to size him up, making comments about him and discussing him spiritedly. "He was defeated in one move. He's so weak. Do you know how to speak? It's clearly because the army commander is too strong," Hardaway said angrily. Yes. You're the one with the higher awareness." Dylan's expression was ugly. He was a Beyond Grade A, but he was being looked at like an animal. He could not help but want to use his Esper ability to teach these Calamity grades a lesson. Even if he was defeated, it was not their turn to humiliate him. "You want to resist?" Han Xiao sensed the energy fluctuation and had an unfriendly expression. "Tell your subordinates to scram." Dylan roared. "Don't think that you can humiliate me just because you captured me. Even if I'm controlled by you, I can still easily kill them. Oh, you reminded me. It doesn't seem safe to tie you up like this." Han Zhao's lips curled up, and he took out the spacetime amber. With a hook of his other finger, he made Dylan hover in midair. The Black Star Guards knew the effect of this thing, and they all had mocking expressions as they backed away. Seeing everyone's mocking expressions, Dylan suddenly had a bad feeling. He asked cautiously, "What are you planning to do?" "Don't worry, you're already a captive. Not only will I not hurt you, but I will also protect your safety." Han Xiao chuckled. "Trust me, I will definitely not let you get hurt." After activating the spacetime amber, after a while, the frozen area finally covered Dylan's entire body. Han Xiao immediately cut off the energy transmission. Dylan was now a captive, so he had enough time to create an amber ball. The next moment, the mutated spacetime solidified, and the amber ball instantly took shape, freezing Dylan within. His shocked expression froze. "This way, there's no need to waste manpower watching over you." Han Xiao chuckled. Hardaway knocked on the amber ball and chuckled. "Can you kill me so easily now?" Dylan was frozen, but he still maintained his perception of the outside world and his ability to think. Realizing that he could not move, he was shocked. "So, this is the ability to seal the 10,000 deity scepter? This is not Black Star's own ability. Black Star has another universal treasure other than the evolution cube?" After teasing the immobile Dylan for a while, the Black Star Guards dispersed. After the big battle, everyone was exhausted and went back to rest. Watching them leave, Han Xiao stopped smiling and opened the interface. Only now did he have the time to calculate the losses and gains of this battle. Recommended book, Heaven's Descent, by 30 Feet of Red Dust. The main character is a muscular and cute guy with a girth around his waist. He's really reckless. Introduction. Yi Chen traveled through 10,000 years of time and space and was reborn into the era of the Great Descent where humans dominated the 10,000 realms. With the help of the attribute points he received from his transmigration, he dominated the 10,000 realms. Chapter 850. The Arcane Church really went all out this time, squeezing out a lot of my trump cards. Han Xiao got the mechanical assistant to take out a few dozen tubes of special nutrition paste from the fridge and place them on the table. He grabbed a tube, casually opened it with his teeth, and poured it into his stomach. As soon as it entered his stomach, it was broken down and absorbed without any aftertaste. After the battle earlier, although his injuries recovered quickly, his stamina was greatly depleted. His boiling blood had just cooled down, and every cell in his body was transmitting the desire of hunger to his brain through nerve signals. Eating some nutrition paste would speed up the recovery of his stamina. The most dangerous stage had passed, but Han Xiaoxin knew that the battle was not over yet. The Arcane Church descended from the sky through the multidimensional sky-opening transportation device of the Radiant Federation, but when they returned, they would have to take a spaceship and cross the universe. With the dynasty's personality, there was no way they would let the 6 beyond grade as of the Arcane Church go home. 5 of them. Therefore, when Tai Tai and the others arrived, the roles changed. It was their turn to chase Sagman and the others. Under the pursuit of hundreds of millions of dynasty soldiers in the flickering world, it would not be so easy for the people from the Arcane Church to successfully escape. Even if they escaped from the flickering world, the Shattered Star Ring was still waiting for them. That was the headquarters of the Klent Kingdom, Bloodshed Land, and Black Star Corps. Having received such a huge gift, Han Xiao was not stingy at all. He had already made up his mind to mobilize all the forces of the Black Star Corps and his deep network in the Shattered Star Ring to return the favor. While thinking, Han Xiao looked at the interface and calculated the losses that the Arcane Church had caused him this time. Leveling up during the EXP penalty period had consumed a large amount of EXP. Even with Han Xiao's foresight, he could not help but feel his heart ache at the amount of EXP lost. A 40% EXP loss was almost half of his EXP. As a thrifty and simple person, he did not like to waste EXP. If he used this EXP loss to upgrade his blueprints and skills, he could obtain a lot of potential points. In terms of character summon cards, Reynold, Aurora, and Ames' character summon cards had all been used up. Yesgod and Heber only had one character summon card left. These were all powerful trump cards, especially Yesgod's Esper Silence character summon card. This was the nemesis of Yesgod. One less character summon card meant that he had one less trump card against Yesgod. Furthermore, Yesgod was the winner of this attack. Because of the Arcane Church's actions, he had no choice but to satisfy Yesgod's needs and force Yesgod to retreat from the battlefield. With the nourishment of the evolution energy, Yesgod would become even more difficult to deal with. He might even be able to touch the threshold of the so-called higher level. This would affect his plan to deal with Yesgod. His plan was disrupted, and he was a little annoyed. However, the mission this time at least rewarded me with 3 unknown character summon cards. Together with the 2 blank character summon cards and 1 skill upgrade card that I randomly drew, I should be able to make up for some of the losses. Han Xiao shook his head. His mechanical army also suffered great losses. A large number of mechanical soldiers had died, and it would take some time to replenish them. On the other hand, because Han Xiao purposely did not allow them to participate in direct battles between beyond grade as there were not many casualties. Compared to other mechanical armies, mechanical lives with the ability to grow had greater potential. It would be too much of a pity if they were destroyed in such a one-sided battle. After all, they were little lives that he had painstakingly sown. For this, he had even experienced the feeling of kidney deficiency many times. It was enough to let his mechanical army be the cannon fodder. In a sense, this battle had started because of Han Xiao. If any beyond grade has died because of this, the dynasty would definitely be unhappy. Thankfully, with Austin's help, they were only injured and did not die. Han Xiao could also answer to this. This way, he would owe Austin a huge favor, which was not entirely a bad thing. Sometimes, owing someone a favor could actually improve one's relationship. Austin was originally a neutral party, but after this battle, he had provoked the Arcane Church, so it would be very difficult for him to continue being a bystander. Although he would not go as far as to immediately surrender to the dynasty, after this incident spread, all the organizations in the universe would mark him as a member of the dynasty, and he would not be able to keep a low profile like before. Han Xiao could not help but think of Cisco, and his expression became a little strange. In that case, Austin has become close to the dynasty. Ames is my ally, so she can be considered half a friend of the dynasty. Heber is also a member of the dynasty. Including me, 4 of the 5 beyond grade as in the Shattered Star Ring are related to the dynasty. Cisco will probably have to keep a low profile in the Shattered Star Ring in the future. With Cisco being targeted, the Star Pupil Protoss would also be under more pressure, but he would not be subject to the dynasty's military retaliation. After entering the era of peace, the entire world was connected to the Internet. The citizens of the advanced civilizations had broadened their horizons and gained more perspective. Therefore, in terms of social evaluation, the stronger civilizations gradually lost the legitimacy to use violence against the weaker civilizations. They gradually lost the absolute support that the citizens had for their own civilization during the exploration era. Now, the universal civilizations would at most fight with each other. At the very least, they would pick on the supercluster civilizations as their opponent. They rarely used military force against the weaker civilizations, unless someone questioned and challenged their dominance. Although the Universal Civilization Contact Treaty was something that only allowed the state to do whatever they wanted, if it was not necessary, they were not willing to destroy the authority of this treaty. Cause and effect completed. Due to your performance, you have received 450 billion EXP, 3 random rewards. Character Summon Card, Photon Sagman. Character Summon Card, Star Pupil Cisco. Character Summon Card, Yes God. Character Summon Card, Photon Sagman. The light energy particle flow infiltration releases a powerful light energy particle beam with high penetrating, explosive, and burning damage. The light energy will continuously cause damage over time and inflict energy interference and energy suppression statuses on the target. When the enemy uses energy attacks, there will be a decrease in power, a decrease in hit rate, and so on. Usage limit 0/5 Character Summon Card, Star Pupil Cisco. A Psychokinesis, Wall of Heart. After being weakened by psychic resistance for 4.7 seconds, the actual damage will be reduced by 85%, and the target will be immune to all mind control skills. If the attacker is a psychic, the INT and MYS attributes of both parties will be determined. If one of the attributes is higher than the attacker, 45% of the theoretical damage will be reflected. If both attributes are higher than the attacker, 90% of the theoretical damage will be reflected. If both attributes are lower than the attacker, there will be no reflection. Usage limit 0/3D. Defeating the Arcane Church Fleet and obtaining the highest EXP reward was within Han Zhao's expectations. The effects of the 3 character summon cards were not bad. This time, he was not lucky enough to get Yes God's Esper Silence. However, Esper ability copy was not bad either. It was equivalent to 3 blank character summon cards for Espers. Yes God had a messy set of abilities, so it was already Fu Ding's miracle that he was able to get this. You have received 1 legendary point. Enemy of Ethereal, the highest level of Universe legendary point. Looks like this will become a new nickname. Han Zhao's eyes sparkled. Every Beyond Grade A had a series of nicknames, representing the legendary things they had done in the past. Han Zhao now had nicknames like Indestructible Body, Indestructible Black Star Core Captain, and so on. After this battle spread out, the galactic residents in the universe would probably give him another Enemy of Ethereal. The Arcane Church was aggressive and wanted to kill him, but he had sealed their universal treasure and even captured their Beyond Grade A combatant. At this point, the enmity between the two sides had deepened. The significance of capturing a Beyond Grade A alive was extraordinary. Back then, Heber had challenged him to a battle in order to obtain a similar result. Unfortunately, he did not succeed, and he had obtained such a result before Heber. This way, his deterrence in the universe would be completely different, and he would obtain a higher status. He felt that Tai Tai would be very envious. Speaking of which, Heber was rushing back to help. Thinking of the expression Heber might have, Han Zhao could not help but chuckle. The notification on the interface also showed that the dungeon Flickering World, Planet Lighthouse battle had been created. This time, there were a total of 11 Beyond Grade as participating in the battle. Other than war, such a scene rarely happened, and it was enough to shock the entire universe. Although it happened in the Flickering World and had not been announced to the outside world, it was foreseeable that this news would be like a bomb that would explode the entire universe. With such a huge impact, it was not strange for a dungeon to be created. Unfortunately, with the intensity and level of this battle, the purpose of this dungeon was only to provide an opportunity for the players to see the world. Level 260 Main Class, Mechanic Race, Black Star Race Attributes, 3247 STR, 3980 DX, 5889 YND, 8489 NT, 2950 MYS, 1163 CH, 1 LUK free attribute points, 0 potential points, 33 health, 3 854, 550 stamina, 3 521 025 energy, 82120 LV 17 LV 17 energy bonuses, plus 1206 STR, plus 1488 DX, plus 1890 YND, plus 2345 NT, plus 1123 MYS, plus 311520 stamina limit, plus 1632% machinery affinity energy rank, 49975 grade, S beyond grade A. This seems to be a beyond grade A mechanic who insists on being a meat shield. My energy rank is almost 50,000. Han Xiao stroked his chin. He still remembered that when he had just reached the beyond grade A realm, his energy rank seemed to be around 43,000. Later on, he had learned the Heber stellar furnace training technique and the ultimate knowledge, mechanical life tinder, and his energy rank had increased by quite a bit. This was especially true for the upper limit of his energy. Heber's training method had increased his energy by more than 16,000. When he had just reached the beyond grade A realm, his energy limit had only been around 50,000. Now it had reached 80,000, rising from LV 15 to LV 17. He had obtained 2 new layers of attribute bonuses. The higher his energy level, the more attribute bonuses he would receive with each increase. He hadn't neglected radiation absorption, either, adding a few more attributes to it. The next race evolution will be at level 300, and the level limit of a Lord Mechanic is also level 40. Similarly, I will only be able to advance at level 300. In that case, only the level 280 promotion mission will stop main. Han Xiao pondered. The upper limit of the Emperor Mechanic class was level 35, and the upper limit of the Lord Mechanic class was 5 levels higher. Apostle, Emperor, and Lord. In the Lord Mechanic class, the advantages of the previous 2 classes were combined and further enhanced. Similar to the previous 2 class advancements, the virtual technology skills and talents were enhanced. This time, the effects were increased by 60%. There were 4 new abilities that he directly obtained. Talent Machinery Lord, plus 300% machinery affinity, plus 200% virtual intrusion and defense efficiency, and a certain change in the nature of his mechanical force. While circulating his energy, he would also be able to cast his consciousness, obtaining the so-called Lord qualification. The introduction did not go into detail, only stating that this was the prerequisite for some new abilities of the Lord Mechanic class. Ability, Lord Grade Machinery Affinity. A series of familiar machinery affinity skills. It was 1 level higher than the Emperor grade, increasing machinery affinity by 190%. Ability, Apostle Life Creation. Similar to Emperor's Gift, it was also a special enhancement for a single mechanical target. However, the effects were quite different. Emperor's Gift could only be used 3 times on the same target, and there was no limit to how many targets it could be used on. Apostle Life Creation was different. Its effect was to use mechanical force that contained the so-called power of the Lord to turn a mechanical soldier into an apostle weapon under the Lord. The enhancement was extremely terrifying. It could basically turn a normal unit into a mini-boss unit. If the foundation was better, it was even possible for it to turn into a super boss unit. With such a terrifying enhancement effect, Apostle Life Creation had a limit to the number of apostle weapons. When it was raised to the max level, he could have 12 apostle weapons at the same time. The power of the Lord in their bodies could be retrieved at will, and the number of slots could be changed. This ability could also be enhanced by various skills. Every time he broke through the limit by 1 level, he would obtain a new apostle weapon slot. The last ability was Lord's Descent. This was a long-range combat ability. Through the special mechanical force of the Lord Mechanic, he could project his will, mind, and strength onto a mechanical soldier, turning this mechanical soldier into an existence similar to a doppelganger. It would be able to share a lot of the attributes, abilities, and talents of the main body. It was as if the main body of the Lord had descended, possessing the strength of a beyond grade A super. This meant that while Han Shao was sitting at home, other than providing mechanical force blessings to the long-range troops through the quantum infinite distance transmission channel, he could also choose an underling to use this move personally. The restriction was that it could only be used on one target at a time. The introduction also stated that if Lord's Descent was used frequently on the same target, there was a chance of forming a soul connection. These 4 abilities are all very reliable, especially the Lord's Descent. Han Shao rolled his eyes and thought, after today's battle, there should be fewer people looking for trouble with my main body in the future. My combat style will probably start to focus on long-range combat. This ability should be of great help to me. After summarizing his losses and rewards, Han Shao received a call from Terakov, saying that the ruler of Uranril wanted to speak to him personally. Even a beyond grade A ally would not be able to meet the ruler of the dynasty just because they wanted to. Since Uranril wanted to talk to him, it was clear that his results had surprised her. Furthermore, there were still some problems that needed to be discussed. The mission to kill Sagman and the others also needed to be discussed. Got it. I'll wait for her online. Han Shao took out his communicator. His mind was filled with thoughts as he waited for the call to be connected. The actual reward was the most tempting. He had risked his life to make such a huge contribution, and he wanted to obtain new dynasty knowledge. Uranril should not reject him, right? You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.